What's going on, guys? I gotta take the glasses off. Welcome to the Poker Life Podcast. My name is Joe Ingram, aka Chicago Joey. I have an intro plan, and I want to say it because I got fired up at the gym on the way home. I want to recommend everybody check out my kind of new website I've had for a long time, but I will be updating it with video and written content, poker news, poker entertainment, poker everything. OnePokerLife.com. Check it out. And also check out the GTO Club where you can learn how to be GTO. Joining me on the podcast today is a man who needs no introduction, but I am going to give him an introduction anyway. Some people might know him as Kid Poker. Some people might know him as the man who makes the right read, but sometimes doesn't make the right fold. Some might know him as the man in charge of poker politics on Twitter. Some might know him as one of the most popular poker players in the entire world. And some people might know him as just Daniel Negreanu. What's going on, puppy? Welcome to the podcast.
That's your new shtick, huh? It's pretty impressive. You had me entertained, so there's that for you.
I don't know where half this came from. I was just playing ball at the gym, running for like 45 minutes. I say, you know what? I got this intro in my head. Let's do it, man. Because I gotta, I'm trying to give some good intros. I'm trying to make the guests feel at home when they get on the podcast and I get started.
I feel pumped up. I feel like fighting now. Not you, but just like that was like a fighting intro, like MMA style.
It kind of was, man. Yeah, it was a little. Actually, you're right. It kind of was, man. It kind of was. So, Daniel, I want to welcome you back to the podcast. Thank you once again. I believe our first podcast we ever did is my most viewed podcast ever on YouTube. But I also kept it as my channel trailer because everybody in the world knows who you are that's a fan of poker. So it goes out pretty well. And I think the last time we had you on, we were talking Pokerstars changes. So on this episode, we're going to talk about the new podcast you started, which I really enjoyed, by the way. We're going to talk a little bit of Pokerstars in 2016. And we're going to talk a little bit about how your summer went in the World Series of Poker. So what's going on, Daniel? How are you doing right now, my friend?
Feeling better. I was telling you earlier, I wasn't feeling so good the day one of the 50K here in Barcelona, so I skipped it, and I tried to jump in day two, played a couple hours, busted ace king to jacks, which seems like, hey, what are you going to do? But there was no way I was going to make it through, so probably like torch 50K euro. But other than that, I'm feeling better, ready to go to the main event tomorrow.
So you been doing anything fun out in Barcelona? I know Barcelona, they got the beaches. They got a lot of tan people out there. It's a lot of fun. There's the clubs. People are out in the streets till 3, 4 a.m. doing whatever it is the Spanish people do at 3 to 4 a.m.
You're almost there. People show up at around 1 at the clubs, and they don't leave till about 8 or 9 a.m. Like 7, 8, 9 a.m. is when the clubs start to like flush out. I haven't been doing anything crazy this trip because, like I said, I just got here. And then was on the GTO sleep schedule, ready to go in this 50K, ready to kill it. And then just, didn't feel so good that morning. So,
yeah, people have been getting on me lately because I've been posting these videos where I sort of document my day and what I'm working at. And I wake up at 7 p.m. and people, they don't think that's GTO, but I think it could be Do you think 7 p.m. is a good time to wake up?
Pretty sure if you ask scientists, they're gonna call that the non-GTO approach. That's maybe like a field player approach. That's exploitative maybe, but it's certainly not GTO because, you're not getting enough sunlight. That's kind of a thing, vitamin D, bro.
The Norwegian guys seem to be pretty good at PLO. They don't get any sunlight. Oddson, I mean, he's, he still looks like he's going pretty straight. He was going strong this summer when we saw him out at the clubs, man. So I kind of disproves the theory a little bit,
Well, yeah. I mean, I don't know, bro. I still think it's if you're talking about balance, life balance, right? You want to be balanced, then the sun might help a little bit.
Good.
You're really waking up at 7 p.m. every night?
No, I woke up at 7 p.m. 2 days in a row. I was kind of, whenever I work, I sometimes put in like 18, 20 hours, and then all of a sudden, I don't know, man. I don't look at the clock. I don't know, man. I got the sheet on the window blocking out the light to keep it dark in here for podcasts. So sometimes I'm not sure what's happening with the light, but Daniel, what should we talk about first here, man? The people on the forums, I wanted to have you on to talk about the podcast because I fucking love the podcast. People on the forums are like, we got to talk about the Pokerstars, amazing promotions, the poker news stuff, the changes. Is Daniel, how does he feel? How does he feel taking this corrupt money from Pokerstars.com? Don't ask him how he feels. Fucking let's
you wanna
chill.
talk
They're
baseball?
fired up, man. Let's get into this, man. Let's talk about stuff.
Let's rip me to shreds right off the bat. Let's go, right? Let's rip it up. What did I say?
Hold this motherfucker down, Joey, and beat him up till he lets out the truth.
Hold him accountable for what he said. And
That's
let's
what
bring back what I said.
This
okay?
is what they're telling me. I said, fine, guys. All right, fine. I'll hold them down. We'll get to the truth. We'll get to the bottom line, whatever, man. It's all right. Last time you're on the podcast, we talked about these amazing changes, the amazing promotions. And now in 2016, people are wondering, where are the promotions? Where are the changes? Is it the raise it? Is it what is it? What's the promotions? What change?
No, it's not the raise it. So let's go back to what I did say. And I said it on your show, and I said it a couple times back then. I was very, very careful, I remember, with my wording, right? I remember saying, if these changes happen, it will blow minds, right? I'm hopeful that they would happen. They haven't. And we've had like a whole bunch of curveballs come into play that have made some of them most likely obsolete, but others still in the process of happening. One thing I didn't expect, or most didn't expect, was David Bazov having unceremonious exit from CEO position. We do have somebody in there now who's really solid, been with the company a long time. Rafi knows his stuff, solid, trustworthy dude. You know, David had a lot of ideas. He had a lot of big ideas. And that's why I said if, because they were like really, really big. And I'm like, I don't know if you can pull that off. That's why I said if they happen. I was hopeful that we'd see some more things implemented this year. Some of them is not dependent upon us as a company. Some that was dependent upon, you know, without being too specific, governments across the globe. That could have been really exciting for players. And that's still in the works, and things could happen there with legislation and different things.
I guess you can understand why players might not believe that, right? Because the players out there, they haven't really seen any promotion changes. It seems like Pokerstars is essentially trying to kill off the professional poker player online. Everything's geared towards the spin and goes, which obviously very high rake. And they're doing these promotions to bring in these new players, but they're filtering the recreational players to these environments where it's going to be very challenging to actually win money in these environments.
Yeah, but so the thing is, it's going to be challenging for like winning players to win money, but the players that are playing are losing less money. So like the vast majority of people as a whole, as like a net, are losing less. Like they're losing, even with a high rake in the spin and goes, those players lose less money than they would sitting in a 1-2 game with like, you know, 5 sharks in a 6 max game where they're like literally going to, if they play a 3-hour session 7 days a week, they'll probably not win one single session. I'm going to say something really controversial that most people will be like, no, you can't be right. But I really heavily believe this. Way back when, this might have been, how old are you now?
I'm old, buddy. 31.
Oh, you are old, so you might remember you're off this. Back in the old days, Party Poker had 15-30 limit games. And they were rampant, you know, really like just tons of games everywhere. Then they started to introduce 30-60, and people were like, well, what are you guys doing? This is insane. You can't have high-stakes games like this. And then on Sundays, Pokerstars would have a special 100-200 limit hold'em game where you had to like be pre-approved to play, and it would as soon as it broke, it wouldn't start again until next week. Now, a lot of people that were smart at the time, like a lot of smart people at the time said this is a really bad idea for a lot of reasons. One, from the company's perspective, like if you're going to run an online poker site, it's just a bad idea. There's like not enough value that you create from the rate that you generate from high stakes games in contrast to what you give up by just felting people, right? Just like if you charge a similar rate for a 1-2 game to a 25-50 game, what is the incentive to offer 25-50 where the new players just get fleeced, right? So I've always been a believer that, and also there's, what does that attract, right? You play high stakes, you have high stakes poker online, it attracts the Sharpies, really smart people, tracking software, scripting software, predatory type environment where, you know, like it's just like it's set up in such a way where, you know, sheep just are like lamb to the slaughter kind of thing. And a lot of money's being made. From a company perspective, that's not GTO, right? So for a long time, they set up an reward system, the VIP system, which we know they totally screwed players over by not honoring fully. That system created even more of the same problem because it created more players that were just a little over break even, that were taking even more money out of the economy and making the ecosystem, I know people hate that word, they're like, what's up with the ecosystem? It made it even more unbalanced, where the playing experience for new players got progressively worse to the point where we were at a dangerous place. Like if you run a company and there's a trend that's going like this year in and year out, if you do nothing and you're a publicly traded company, you could go to jail. Like legit. That's a legit thing. If you don't do anything to address it or to reverse it, you can go to jail. So this is an analogy that people are going to go, what? But similar, not the same. When Obama took over, right?
Here we go.
He was dealing with like the auto industry failing. He was dealing with, the financial crisis and stuff. So before, any sort of job growth could happen, he had to stabilize in order to get there. So he avoided a big disaster. And I think in this case, what they recognized in the pattern was headed to be a disaster and very likely to be, like, in say 2 to 3 years from now, much worse than it will be now. It's just going to take some time for that to kind of, take hold. A lot of people that were grinders that are no longer, they're not going to feel that and they're not going to experience that. So for them, they're going to feel like they got screwed, and I can't argue with them if that's how they feel.
So the idea is to stabilize the economy, Obama circa 2008, and eliminate the winning players. Have it be where less players win money, less to no players win money, and then at some point it'll revitalize itself. Is that what the idea is then?
Not that no players win money, of course. No, there's always going to be winning players.
Limited number of players.
Well, if you had in any game, in a live game, or if you had in, like, say, a Bellagio game, a 25-50 PLO game, where there's specifically exactly one losing player and 8 winners, game's probably not going to last. I mean, it's only surrounding one guy. So, like, if he doesn't show up, that game doesn't go, and then all 8 other players are like fading, whatever meaningless rake is in live games in a situation like that, or however small it is. But if that guy quits, then the game doesn't run. So a balance is necessary. So if you had that Bellagio PLO game and you had, say, 3 or 4 fun players, as you like to call them, now you have a better chance of longevity for the game where it's going to last a little bit longer. So that balance is important going forward. And, like, the trend we were seeing was, like, something had to get it seemed as though from what the analytics they were doing that something had to get done. I, again, am totally repulsed, if you will, by how it played out in terms of the timing. But thankfully and hopefully, for sure. If there's any website right now that says you're guaranteed anything for Supernova for 2017, let me know, because it shouldn't be. There's, they've addressed that at the very least, that in 2017, whatever your status is not, it's no longer a 2-year thing. It may give you something. It may cease to exist. We don't know what will take shape. So at least going forward, hopefully we can avoid really horrifyingly bad mistakes that lose the trust of the players. And I totally understand why they would feel that way, because there was equity and value that they were stripped of, and it's just not fair.
So the idea, stabilize the poker economy. Obviously, in this situation, you're going to lose a lot of players. You're going to lose new players who are aware of the changes, aware of what the rake is, aware of these things, and are turned off by that. You're going to lose players who are regulars, who've been winning players, who now they can't win anymore, or they don't want to drop down stakes, or if they're used to winning a certain amount, so they don't want to win less, etc. They quit. And the idea is to sort of bring in these people in the spin and go and tournament world, because it seems like they want to get rid of cash games. It seems like they want to get rid of heads up. I mean, the numbers, it's trending down and down and down pretty much as we go along here. So, I mean, you can understand why a lot of players out there, Daniel, might not necessarily, I mean, I don't know this. And does anyone really like this approach that it's going? I mean, the recreational players, do they enjoy these changes? Or does that not really matter necessarily?
Well, think about the recreational player and how much it affects them versus the pro. It has a major impact on pros who are platinum or VIP or like, supernova status. But when you're talking about recreational bronze star or silver star players, the rake hasn't changed for them, really. So if it were to create an environment where there were less pros grinding, it actually benefits them in several ways. They're playing in better games, and we have seen statistics to show that the average games have seen a higher percentage of players seeing flops. More fun players playing hands and seeing flops, which is something that benefits them. On top of that, they were not getting a lot of rake benefit anyway if they were like a lower tiered star. So it wasn't like they were dependent upon that. So their rake effect is very, very minimal. And typically recreational players who play, they play to have fun. When you think about the small community of pros who like are the loudest voices, we're very smart about knowing that, like, whoa, bro, this rake is a problem. But typically when you play with, like, that's why when you ever see these private games, if you ever play in one of these PLO games in like a Hollywood game or something like that, 50 and 100 blinds, they'll take $100-$200 a hand, right?
Yeah,
they don't care.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, they don't. Nobody cares. And the pros who play it are smart to play it because even though they're taking 100 or 200, the game is so juicy that they're making more than that. But typically, the recreational players are not the ones that are concerned with what's the rake structure. Is this game beatable? What's my ROI? No, they don't care about stuff like that.
I mean, I think it's pretty crazy to say none of them care about it. I think they don't care because they're ignorant that it exists. They don't. If they knew, they would care, but they don't know, so they don't care. So it's sort of like, in a way, it's kind of like tricky a little bit because you're taking advantage of someone who's ignorant to the actual reality of what's happening. So that's essentially kind of what you're saying, is that you want to take advantage of these new players who are unaware that they're probably not going to make a lot of money, but they can have a good time or they can have fun with the spin and goes. That's sort of what it looks like then.
Well, I hear what you're saying, but I don't know that that's fair because it's not as though it's not published. If they are curious about the rake, they have every right to they could see it. They could see it. They can do all those things by getting their hand history sent to them. And on top of that, the rake for them hasn't really changed. What's changed is the quality of the games, right? So if you played in a game back in 2003, same PLO game you play, and you paid twice the rake in that game, you make a ton more money, right? So rake is kind of relative sometimes to like game toughness. And if games are softer, rake plays a smaller role. As the games get more difficult, a game can get to the point where it's so tough that it doesn't matter what rake is available, you can't win. Like if you played that dude you were talking about, the PLO heads up, right? If you played him with like a third of the rake, if you were both, let's say, GTO and equal, you're both going to lose in the long run. So like any rake essentially could create an environment where no players win. That's a possibility. And if that's the case, like with the hyper turbos where it's pretty much no go for pros, there's just not enough EV in those, then that's something that just like you just have to stop. If that's no longer something you're gonna be a pro at if that happens.
How many players do you think are actually at spin and goes right now?
I don't have that number yet, but in late November, I had a good meeting with a couple of the key players, one of the higher ups at Pokerstars the other night, and I'm going to probably plan another trip to Isle of Man. I might head over to Norway for a minute, chill for a bit, but just to go over like some of the numbers because I have to go there in person. It's like they're very, very secretive, as you know. That earlier last year we had Donnie and Daniel and Ike see some things that we can't discuss because they're private. Now it's a public company. You can't be as lax. Like here's our numbers. You have to be careful of releasing that kind of information. But there's a couple things that I want to look at, and if there's anything specific that you guys want to know, let me know and I'll take a look. I want to look at the win rates for the top players, and I want to see how much those have been affected, not just at the high stakes, but at the mid limit as well. I want to see if there's been a big increase or decrease. They've already released their earnings, and they look good. They're static in terms of overall of growth in poker, and they've also got the new verticals of sports betting and the casino as well. And what's important to know too, like a lot of people are, I wouldn't say ignorant to the fact, but like not cognizant of the fact that like this industry is not growing. We're not seeing like Googles and Yahoos or whatever saying, hey, I want to get into online poker. This is something that like Pokerstars, the industry as itself, they are the only ones spending any industry afloat. This isn't like the glory days when Full Tilt was helping with the burden. You had Full Tilt, you had UB, you had Party Poker. They were all helping to create growth in the industry. Now that burden is because essentially Pokerstars has what you call a monopoly, but they're the only ones really putting in a major effort to bring new players in the game. And if you don't bring in new players in the game, there's no VIP changes, there's no promotions, there's no nothing that's going to save the marginally winning pro. Like that'll just be an extinct breed if they don't do that. So they have to think of creative ways to do that. Part of that is spin and goes and more like fun style games. And we've seen that that's been helping overall, especially, not helping specifically like the group of pros that were, hit the hardest, but as a company and the stability of, the net revenue per year, it seems to be working.
Well, I hear a little bit of lag. Probably because you're lagging over there in your Wi-Fi.
Yeah.
Can you turn down a little bit?
Mm-hmm.
Whoa, it's crazy. Test. Yeah, you might have to leave the conversation and then come back to it on the Hangout because there's a little lag and there's a echo.
Okay, let me reboot my computer real quick.
Okay, I'll give some shout outs while we wait.
All right.
Cool. All right, guys, I'll give some shout outs while we're waiting here. Let me see what we got out here. We got a lot of happy people in the chat today. As always, welcome to the podcast. Thank you for tuning in live. Let me see what we got out there. Skylar Beckett. What's up, Skylar Puppy? Ali Ayers, Tim F, Poker Mania, Mihailo Milanovic, Ali Ayers, Lucky Buddha 21, Diener Puppy, Chris P. What up, Chris? Normac. What up, Normac? Chris, just watching. Lawrence Asek, Balbaki, Johnny Spicer, my boy Johnny. What's up, Puppy? My buddy Daniel D'Agostino. What up, Daniel? What's happening? Adam Svetlik. Who else we got? Chris R, Kaipo, Matt Smith, Fafala, my boy Ryan Chua. What up, Chua Puppy? Victor Rasha, Harry Manzel, Mr. Dawkins, Dennis Tan. Miss somebody? Joshua K, Prime Poker. What up, puppies? What's happening? Thank you for tuning in live. Sam Pacos, Philip Droney, Albert K, Michael Braden. What's up, Mike Boats? Gregory House, Brazil. We got a lot of motherfuckers in here today. Pocus, McLovin, Razi, Puppy, Neff Boy, JG, Mr. Smith, Aurora Chad, Billy Music. I'm trying to get them all out. Mr. Tatas. Whew. Okay.
I'm there. You hear me?
I'm here. I hear you. Whew.
Okay, cool. Is that any better?
Yeah, I just wore myself out. I gave shout outs the entire time you were gone.
Taking deep breaths. Nice.
Daniel, I'm very excited to play this podcast back. We're going to watch this podcast 10 years from now, and we're going to do a sweat session, like in retrospect of the things that are being said now, because, I understand where you're coming from. I understand what you're saying. But as a professional poker player, I mean, if these rules were in place when you're coming up, you might not be where you are now because you couldn't have won at the game. It just, they're essentially taking away this. I mean, there had to be some other way to do this to save the ecosystem, right? Like, this can't be the only thing that they could have done is eliminate winning poker players and eliminate high stakes, eliminate the fun parts of poker. I mean, is that really the only thing that could have been done?
Well, so interesting you bring that up, and I'll address that first. Is when I grew up, the rake was the rake, right? I played an insane rake. I played 10-20 limit hold'em with a 10 up to 5% with a $10 rake, and you had to tip like $2.50 a hand. So I was paying like a small blind a hand in rake when I started playing poker. As I went to Las Vegas, the rake was static, and it hasn't really changed. Online is not more expensive than live. The only reason that it feels that way or it seems that way is simply because you play way more hands. So you're paying way more rake per hour because you're playing a lot more hands. But it's not as though the rake itself, for the vast majority, as I mentioned before, the vast majority of people, the rake has not shifted much as a result of the VIP program cuts. It just has had
this is for the professional poker players out. Obviously, like you're sure for the guy, spin and goes are new. The rake has always been the same thing. It's never gotten raised, and that's what a majority of the new players are playing. But I mean, I do want to show some, especially this podcast. This podcast isn't necessarily for all the news. This podcast is for other professional poker players out there, because I mean, I guess they just bring absolutely no value to things. It doesn't matter there's professionals. It doesn't matter there's a Daniel Negreanu or a Phil Hellmuth or a Phil Ivey who are playing the high stakes, winning, inspiring other players to want to be like you guys and want to become professional poker players and play at all. It just seems like that doesn't matter at all anymore. Let's ride with the players that we have. Let's get rid of the high stakes. Let's rake the shit out of micro stakes. Let's rake the shit out of spin and goes. Let's get rid of the reward systems. Let's feature soccer players. I mean, it just seems fucking, as someone who plays poker and is making a living from poker, that seems, understand, like that seems fucking crazy. I get what you're saying. There's no other option. That's it.
Yeah, I get what you're saying, but let's take a look here at what we can compare. We can compare Pokerstars today in terms of what their offerings were to the golden eras or to the previous years, right? And you can look at that and go, well, this is way worse than things were. Like, we used to get a lot more, man. The gravy train was awesome. We could just, multi-table, fold out, break even, show a profit for the year. But if you compare, and if you do that, you'd be right in saying that Pokerstars today doesn't offer what it did before. But if you compare Pokerstars today to like every other site in terms of the offer, like today, if you were just new to poker and you didn't know any of this stuff, like where would be your best bet in terms of like value? It's still Pokerstars in terms of, as far as I know, without very few exceptions, the rate across the board is cheaper at Pokerstars. They spend the most amount of money to bring new players into the game. And the most important thing for pros, for all you guys, is if you're not bringing in new players, like if you're not hustling up people at each going, yo, come play with me on this game, like who's doing that for you? Who's pimping out? Who's getting you the meat? You know what I mean? Like that costs money too. And now that PokerStars is essentially the only one in the industry that is like bringing it in, that's a heavy burden in terms of cost, which has to be offset somewhat. And part of the offset is the pro players who, let's be honest, let's be frank, like for a long time had it too good, right? Things now are like a little bit frustrating. I get it because, you know, they've lost value in terms of VIP programs. But there was a time when it was a little too easy to just make way too much money, you know, folding.
Daniel, I got to be honest, but I see why they pay you the big bucks over at pokerstars.com, my friend. You got the fucking answers, you got the answers, man. How long do you they teach you this, or how does this work? What do they read this to you?
I care, man. Like,
do they sit you in a room and like do that, you know, Miss Truman candidate where they laser this stuff into your head and you just like, this is the answer to that question, the players, the professional.
Do I sound like a robot?
I mean, shit, man. I feel like they Truman show you in the back room before you get in the podcast. Bobby Bazoff was in the room doing put the laser on your head.
Bobby Bazoff.
David, man, the alleged, I don't know, David Bazoff, man. Shout out to David, man. Can we get him on the podcast, or is this these allegations he's facing right now gonna not let him come on the podcast now that he's out?
That would be fun. That would be fun having him on the podcast. I don't know if he's down to do that right now. He may have some legal issues, but as far as like me knowing, you know, answers and stuff, it's because I pay attention. I talk to a lot of high stakes players, a lot of the online guys. I talk to people within the company. I go over things that are coming in the future. And like my biggest concern right now, because it was one of the most trying times in my whole career as like a poker dude, was those changes in the way they were being implemented. It was internally one of the biggest struggles of my own integrity and like, how do I continue to move forward despite the fact they're doing something that I'm morally opposed to? Like, I just think it's wrong the way that they're doing it. I feel like we're, you know, just being dishonest. You know, the whole line of the players were warned, I found that to be very arrogant and condescending and inappropriate. You know, I didn't think that was a fair assessment. So that was the most trying time. So at this point, where I'm at is I'm trying to make sure that nothing like that happens again and that's severe, and stabilize the ship. But before things get worse, like I want things to just be stabilized, and then we can start to look at things getting better. And there are a few things, you know, these spin and goes, as much as like I did a Q&A today, like 150 people, first timers playing in the main event, right? Which we've been breaking records here in Barcelona for numbers. Whole bunch of these people never played one before. Some of these people played a $10 sit and go, a spin and go, qualified to come here. Now they're playing in the main event. They're probably not very good at poker. So that creates value for the tournaments. It creates that old vibe from like, when you listen to the podcast, that old vibe when PokerStars used to put like 2,000 people in the main event and really create a spectacle out of it. This spin and goes is sort of a recharge of that idea, bringing new people into the game. And, you know, it's one creative way. It's not like a huge promotion that helps the 1 and 2 no limit grinder specifically, but it's something that kind of recreates interest with new players, which we got to think of ways to do that. Because if you don't do that, like I said, if the pros are like, how are the pros themselves helping to bring in new players? Like and I'm not saying that they should, it's not the burden on them, but they should at least realize that like at this point, from a marketing perspective, the only people doing it essentially are PokerStars.
So all those old high stakes players that played cash games, that befriended the fun players online and then set up Skype matches with them to join the 6max games, were probably ahead of their time a little bit in terms of strategy, huh? Probably the way to go. A
little bit, it sounds like maybe. You know, you think about that too. You think about like what Full Tilt did, right? And I talked to some of the Full Tilt people that were high up, and they actually look back on it and they agree with me wholeheartedly. When they started having those big games, there was some value in watching Isildur and, you know, and Dur and all these guys like go battle in these high stakes. It created railbirds. It created like a whole bunch of action. But like overall for the site, long term, it did more damage than good. Like Guy lost what, like $28 million? If those stakes were not available, and if it was like 10, 20 or something like in that range, he might have lost like $1 million and he'd still be playing today. But he's gone. You know, he did lose a big chunk, but that he's gone, those games are gone. And players like him, that's what's going to happen continually at the high stakes because they get cannibalized, they get crushed, they can't win, and they're just losing like too much too quickly.
So what you're saying is because Full Tilt had Rail Heaven is the reason that they stole players' money for years. That factored into the reason why. That's kind of what you're saying, right? You're taking advice from the Full Tilt guys. They they stole all the players' money for years. I mean, I'm not going to the full, I'm not calling up the full tilt guy. They might, sure, they built something up, but they built up somewhere they stole the players' money for years and put people in terrible financial situations where they weren't sure how they were going to, whatever, man. All right. Okay. So that was a contributing factor. All right. I got it. Okay. Got to think about that one a bit longer. But Guy Liberté, man. Yeah. So Guy Liberté, he lost 28 million. Allegedly. I don't know. I thought you can only have one. I think you only have one account, right? You can only have one account, I believe, on poker sites, right?
I think he had. I don't know. That was the rumor. You would know better than me what his number was, but I know allegedly. It was a lot of money.
I don't know. I'm current in terms of service. You're supposed to have a one account on poker sites. I wouldn't think full tilt. The guys you just mentioned would let someone break the terms of service like me and have all these screen names on the site. It just doesn't. I don't know, man. Whatever, man. All right. Well, you playing the. I want to shout. We might get Guy Liberté on the podcast, by the way, to discuss the one drop extravaganza coming up in Monaco. That could happen, and if it does, maybe we'll ask him this question. We'll ask him about that and see. All right, Danny, we spent enough time on this. Guys in the chat, did I appease you guys that wanted to hear about this? I didn't want to really, I want to talk about it, sure, but it isn't necessarily the first thing on my mind. I feel like I'm trying to focus on the positives, but at the same time, these are very important issues because a lot of professional poker players out there are very worried about the future of themselves. They want to, they've been making a living at poker. So, I guess, so what you say to them, what do you have to say to those guys out there? The people who are the
I would say this.
Players?
I would say that, like, I'm 42 now. I've been playing since I was 17, and I don't remember a time in the last 15 years where there's been more variety in terms of high-stakes games across the globe. Like, really big, lots of high-stakes players, not online, right? But we've seen a lot of migration. Like, you looked at the World Series, there were games flowing at Aria, Bellagio, crazy games. Mm-hmm. Here, the tournaments are like the high rollers are going crazy. Like, the interest in poker's there, right? There's definitely been trepidation and an anxiousness about playing online for a lot of reasons. A lot of players that would be the game starters, they're maybe a little bit turned off by online because of what they've heard, because they hear about these seating strip softwares, they feel these HUDs, like what is they might not understand how simple a HUD is and how it's not as like dangerous as they might think. But overall, I think there's been some trepidation there, but live games in general, there's private games in Florida, there's Florida's booming, there's games everywhere. So I think poker's in a good place, and if you're a professional player, you got to learn, you have to adjust and be flexible, right? If PLO was no longer the GTO option and it was dead, and this new game called Chamaha was, learn how to play Chamaha. If that's what the fun players are playing, play Chamaha. You always have to be willing to adjust. Back in the old days, if you were a stud player, there's stud games everywhere, all over the world. Now, if you're a stud player, you're extinct unless you've adapted. So you have to learn to adapt to either multi-tabling more lower limit games where there's juice online, playing tournaments online, because tournaments are still juicy. Tournaments are still really good value online across the board. Maybe cash games have certainly taken a hit, but tournaments I think are still pretty good value. And if not that, cash games all over you have to find a place where you can find a good cash game to play in as well.
Adapt or die is what you're saying.
What's that?
Adapt or die is what you're saying.
I think that's true in most industries, right? And like for Pokerstars as a company, you think about that too. They had to adapt or die, essentially. It doesn't seem that way to the pros' perspective, but look at the trend. This isn't secret.
Pokerstar wasn't going to die. Come on.
No, not die.
They ain't going to die. Pokerstars ain't going to fucking die. Come on, man.
Well, listen. We don't know where things... I said, if you see a trend, like if you started like... If your graph in PLO for like 2-3 years was like going like this and it stayed like that and never went back up...
tournaments and get staked then. That's what I'm going to do. Fuck that.
You could. You got good like social game. You can get a juicy deal, I'm sure.
Listen, man, I can sell action of the $1 million one drop extravaganza. Give me 1.5 months in Monaco. I will get staked for the one drop extravaganza. I would prop bet anybody in the entire world on that, man. I mean, I'm pretty sure.
I'll bet you could get in there, businessman, right?
I mean, you get a businesswoman. I think you find a businesswoman. You find a nice businesswoman. Maybe she's got a yacht. Maybe maybe I don't know. I don't know what her situation is.
I got a girl for you. I know one.
That's what I'm saying. So, we invite her on the podcast, talk about what she's done. You wine her and dine her, you give her a little podcast and chill. I mean, whatever, man. That's another thing for our time. Let's change the subject. Guys in the chat, if you tuned in for that, now's the time to tune off, my friend. We got my buddy Robbie Straczynski in the chat. What up, puppy? Robbie's your biggest fan, man. You've done a couple interviews with Robbie. You've been on you've talked with him before, right?
I have. I met him in Bahamas, and then I saw him again at the World Series this year.
I like Robbie, man. He does some good stuff. Good writer. Makes some videos for PokerUpdate.com. What do you consume? Why'd you start the podcast, Daniel? The podcast you did with Brian Balsabog? Brian Balsbog. All right, so you did the first podcast with Brian Balsbog, and I gotta say, I wrote something about it on my website, onepokerlife.com. I loved the podcast. It was fucking, I'm swearing today, I'm gonna fire up. It's super entertaining. I really loved hearing how, I couldn't even believe that back in the day, I couldn't believe that they're standing at, being at the Rio this year, they're standing at the Rio giving out patches for thousands of dollars. It seems crazy that this is what poker was even a couple years ago. There's a guy, you want a patch? How much? 5? Here's 5. Like, it just seems crazy that that's how things worked. It was a great conversation the two of you had. I really enjoyed it.
So I'll tell you something, Joey. I said, like, if you were doing what you're doing now in that era, if that existed, you would be making minimum $500,000 a year in some sort of sponsorship deal. And I'm not blowing smoke.
Oh.
You would have had the 3 different sites.
Son of a.
Firing money at you to wear a patch, to do TV stuff for them, to do the podcast, to do the interviews. You would have had a show probably on Fox Sports Net because they were handing out shows like popcorn. Learn from the pros. You could have Joey, learn from Joey. You could have done your whole shtick, the whole deal. So
this is how this helps you now. This is how I am all the time. I'm fired up right now, man. I got what I'm working on now. I'm just fired up. This is how I am. I'm energetic. I'm excited. I'm not, whatever, man. We're going to talk about that. But yeah, unfortunately, that's not the case. So, but yeah, why'd you get in the podcast? Why'd you decide to start doing that?
So I randomly started listening to podcasts in May when I was on a flight to Romania or something like that. And I started to really, I started with listening to this Game of Thrones podcast. Then I was listening to Hearthstone podcast, a lot of political podcasts, then some poker. I started listening to your podcast and others and stuff. And I really enjoyed the medium. I'm like, well, this is a really cool way. Lewis Howes, another guy I listened to. I really enjoyed the medium. And I thought about, if I were to do one, what could I do it on that's not already out? And I thought, okay, so I have the ear of a lot of influential people in poker. I can just make a call and be like, hey, Ty Stewart, you want to do a podcast or something like that? So I thought, okay, what do people want to hear? And I thought my first guest for sure, I knew I was already going to do Brian Balsbog, especially for guys like you and a lot of people in poker today. They would be fascinated by how things were, right? Mm-hmm. And to look back and what the boom was like. And I think that held true. I think the feedback I got was a lot of people are you serious? I thought this, I didn't even know the story about how they would print out a picture of a guy named James and then look for him in the Rio. As he's walking in and goes, hey, you James? He's like, you want to make some money? Pretty crazy. So I thought that it would also be an opportunity to get some of the poker issues that people care about, out in the forefront, and they can hear directly. Because sometimes people don't know the truth. When a lot of people think, oh, World Series, they make so much money, the rake's too high, they make all this money off the TV shows, It's not true. It's just not true. They're not killing it. And the other thing that's important too, especially with the World Series, is if they weren't making a lot of money, why the hell would they do it? Why would they put up the hassle of having all those people come in if they weren't making a boatload of money? Why would they use up all that convention space for that period of time if they're not making money? If they're not making money, it's over. And because nobody else can be able to do it. So I hope to educate some people on the other side of poker, the business side, the behind the scenes things, because there's a lot of misinformation out there about all this money. People, high stakes poker, all these shows, they weren't making money. The vast majority of them, as Brian mentioned, were paid infomercials. Poker After Dark, The Big Game by Pokerstars, High Stakes Poker. They were paying to be put on television, not the other way around. And a lot of people will be fascinated to hear, really the truth behind a lot of the stuff from a business sense and why it's important to be mindful of it when you're a professional. You
could say that them paying for those shows to be on air was a direct impact on the success they've had as a poker site and why Pokerstars is one of the biggest poker sites in the entire world. So I'm sure, they got to pay to get these shows on, but the impact is, I feel like it's probably going to be worth it.
Well, yeah, it's worth it, and they wouldn't have done it if it wasn't worth it, right? So the key thing is they're paying for this infomercial to bring in money on the back end, right? Now, the thing is the networks know that. So they're like, we're not going to pay you for the content. You know, you're going to pay us for the content because we're doing you a favor. So we didn't have much leverage, right? And there was so much poker content at that point that it wasn't like, you know, they were begging for it. They already had plenty. It was more an opportunity for the sites. And again, they wouldn't have put these, and that's why you don't see as much poker on TV today. Because there's not a lot of back-end incentive. There's not like a revenue stream for who's going to pay for these shows. Like if you create a cool cash game show and you put it on TV, like who's paying for it? Well, the networks ain't paying for it. Well, who's going to, unless some sort of advertiser has real benefit in the back end, why would they pay for it? The thing that shocks me most, and Brian touched on it a little bit in the interview, is that mainstream sponsors have been so wary of this demographic, which is 18 to 35 male. You would think sponsors would line up, the beer sponsors and all those things, but you know, I didn't know this until Brian mentioned. He said, you know, vices don't like to mix vices. So alcohol's like, just stick to drinking. Don't gamble, just drink. So that was, you know, I find that fascinating.
Yeah, I think as you mentioned, it kind of started off where the poker sites were paying for their own content to be on television, and that set a bad precedent. So now the companies and the television companies are so used to sites paying, why would they start paying for programming? And it's sort of, I guess that's probably still happening a lot of times, is the site. I mean, WPT just signed a deal with Fox Sports, I believe. I'm not sure Fox Sports won. I think it's Fox Sports won a 5-year deal with them. So we got Poker Night America. I think they have a new show coming. I'm not sure if that's going to be on CBS Sports Network as well. So it seems like there are some steps being made. Obviously, Poker Central's, I know they're going to be ramping up. Allegedly, they're going to be ramping up the type of content that they're going to be producing up here. So it looks like we are getting some new content creators out there. So, I mean, do you have high hopes for this, or do you kind of see it being the same way where there's just not that much good content out there on it's televised for people to watch?
Yeah, well, that was a good segue because I was just about to talk about Poker Central and how they're our best hope right now for high quality poker on television and for, you know, reinvigorating, you know, poker boomish like figures. And if you guys watch the Super High Roller High Roller Bowl, I think everyone I know loved it, right? Nick Schulman was the absolute boss, worked well with Ali Najad, who's like perfect in that role, plays poker, you know, great transition guy. And Nick has a unique way, better than any commentator I've seen, of like talking about, you know, really intricate situations, but in a way that, like, you know, grandma at home can understand, you know, not like using, you know, GTO language. He's using, you know, he'd say things like, you know, Ali, this might be a good situation where he could represent like he's got the 4 kings, right? Instead of, you know, using terminology that she'd be like ousted by. So Poker Central is vital for poker's future in America, I think, in several ways. Its success all pros should be rooting hard for Poker Central to be successful.
Agree.
I had just had a meeting or phone call meeting the other night about some things coming forward that are some pretty exciting changes, you know, that are coming in that area, and some new content that I think a lot of people like. A lot of people are, you know, rooting to have some cash games back. A lot of people want some more of the Super High Roller Bowler stuff. So there's definitely a lot more of that kind of, you know, unique, fresh content that is planned through Poker Central. And they have, you know, big plans, but understand this, like they're all in it for everybody does these things because they want to make money of it, but they're taking big risks. Like Alex Dreyfus, what he's doing with GPL and stuff like that. I realize it's been fledgling. It's not exactly at a high point yet, but they're taking big risks for the pros. So the pros as a whole should support things like Poker Central. We should support the GPL and hope, whether you're in it or not, we should hope that it does well.
I definitely agree with that. I think that Poker Central should, although, I mean, my biggest thing with Poker Central is they weren't putting any of the content. I think their strategy was just not optimal because they're essentially not putting their content on the website, on YouTube. They're only hosting the content on their app, which you can get through Apple. I mean, it's like a 3-step process to actually watch the content instead of putting some of the content up for people to actually see. They put these teasers on YouTube, and I mean, you know, I think the teasers were popular on YouTube for the cash game they did last year, but I feel like they should just put the full episodes up there, at least 1, 2, or 3, and give people a little bit more of a look. Even the pokerography things, I want to watch them. I can't find them. I want to watch pokerography things. So I'm interested in that. Go ahead. Yeah,
so you're right. So you're right, and like I said on the call, there's going to be some changes in some strategy and going forward in terms of how that all rolls out. You have to understand too, part of what they were doing, part of the plan was to, you know, to get onto networks and things, and you want to create value in terms of having these shows. If you just give everything away for free and just have it available, it's hard to sell it, right? So so that model is a very archaic model in terms of how to create a network. And I think we're in a digital age now where that's going to shift. And Kerry Katz is a very, very smart individual. He sees the direction and is going to make a shift, which should be announced in the next couple months. And I think, a lot of people find it quite interesting. But there'll definitely be a shift in what you're talking about. And you make very valid points in that, it's not GTO in today's age for people to have to go, wait a minute, so I have to download this app and then go to this thing, Amazon what? It's a little more confusing than just
Roku.
Yeah. What's a Roku?
The fuck is a Roku, Daniel? I don't know.
Yeah.
Well, I do know what you're talking about, and I'm excited to see if it happens. So I guess, so GPL, I want to talk about GPL. So GPL comes out in March. Pros like myself embrace the idea. Didn't necessarily think it would catch on. You're watching Six Max, you're watching Heads Up. GPL looks like it's been struggling a little bit. And my main idea at the beginning was that they needed to get the professional poker players behind the idea to really support the idea, like the idea, embrace the idea. Because if you get the professional poker players in the idea, the recreational players are going to follow along with that. They do what the best players are talking about, what they like. For some reason, the lower stakes players like the same things. So I think he did not do that at all. It seemed like most people really checked out from paying attention to the matches. What do you think, as is right now, can be done to potentially draw that interest of players and make it something a little bit more watchable for poker players?
Okay, so two things I'll address there. First of all, I'm not so sure that's true. I mean, it's a theory. I can't disprove it, that, getting the pros on board is essential to get the mainstream interested. I don't know that the two are synonymous. I mean, it may be, but I don't know that that's necessarily true. Because outside of the pros watching, are the pros actually actively going to get amateurs to come watch it as well? I'm not so sure. I think creating a product that mainstream people will enjoy should be the first priority in terms of expanding an audience. Because if your audience is just poker pros, it's pretty limited. As far as what he can do going forward, like I said, I'm rooting for him. I think that getting it off the ground was step one. I'm pretty sure that he was aware that season one wasn't going to be woo, we'd have 30,000 people watching the Cube, all at once. So he just wanted to create something. And I think the decision he's made to sort of scale down and have the playoffs in Las Vegas in the Cube is probably where they should have been anyway for season one, and not thought too far ahead of themselves. But he does have financial backing, and along the way he's going to learn from what worked, what didn't. And he's actually likely going to be my second guest on the podcast. So we'll get deeper into, asking him, because it's his vision really. And I'm curious myself. And, I've talked to Brian, my agent, who I'm not a part of the GPL. I helped him with the draft. I didn't sign the contract. Part of it is a wait and see approach. Brian's a smart guy. I trust in him. And the biggest issue we find is the revenue stream. And this is not something that the pros think about typically. But how is Alex going to make money? How is the GPL going to make money? And if they don't make money, nobody make no money. So
China, baby. Been spending a lot of time in China lately, man. Chinese deserts. I said he posted a picture of the Chinese desert. I say Chinese desert. People get buried losing Chinese investor money in the Chinese desert. Alex, you better be careful, Poppy. We don't want you in that desert, my friend. I mean, he's been spending a lot of time.
Watch out for that triad money.
Listen, man, you fuck with the triad investor money, man. You might put somewhere. I don't know how it works over in China right now, but he seems to think he's been spending time in China, tweeting out China a lot. I mean, maybe that could be, that could be a market where they're going to try to attack in the future. But I do agree with you, and it kind of actually, if the content is better for a mainstream market, then in theory the professionals are going to like that. They're going to enjoy that as well too, and they'll embrace the idea. So I guess they kind of go together. And from just a pure what they have product standpoint right now for the content, what do you think can be done to improve that? Because you think about what are the best, what are the best elements? I feel like the table talk between the players discussing things. You got a Jungle Man going crazy, him and Elke, or him and Nano Noko going back and forth from chatting. I feel like those are the best elements that make it fun. So then how can we maximize that, and potentially what else can be done to improve it from a spectator standpoint?
Okay, I will say that the best poker shows ever that really related to the mainstream were done by 441 Productions, which used to shoot the World Series of Poker. And these were documentary filmmakers who got into poker. And each episode that they shot, they knew that they had to have a story arc, right? It seems crazy, like a poker show, just show the poker hands. But they wanted some sort of story arc, a beginning, a middle, an end. Heroes, villains, this guy pitted against this guy, creating drama around that. And they did a really good job of making every episode. Like, people remembered Mike Matusow and Sean Chacon going at it. People remember Antigate, Vlad Freeman and Jeff Losandro. They remember the moments, right? They remember the moments a lot more than the hands. And part of that is the way that it's packaged. So one of the ways in which I think GPL can do that is to create some more rivalries. Like, Jungle Man is a great character. He's obviously, like, you know, he's a unique individual.
Character, right. Character. He's a character.
So I think, you know, expanding upon that and getting people to care outside of just the poker community. And that's difficult to do without television, you know, in terms of getting, like, you know, the middle America type older people to get on, you know, Twitch and stuff like that. And understand, too, Twitch is a relatively new invention, if you will. Like, it's not something that many old people even know exists. So a lot of younger guys get into it, but a lot of the young gamers, like, if they don't really play poker, it's going to take a little bit of time before they find it interesting, because they've got a lot of competition for their eyeballs, you know, with Twitch.
Oh, no, you got nothing. How can we improve then, huh?
Well, you know, like I said, so from a marketing perspective, you know, creating more drama between the teams and somehow finding a way to get that mainstream.
So, but how does that really improve the actual visual product of how it's set up now with things?
Okay, so from that perspective, I'm going to be totally transparent and honest. I haven't watched enough of it to have a really solid opinion. Like, I've seen a little bit of it here and there, but again, obviously, like, I've struggled personally to kind of have a raw interest, you know? It's like, especially, you know, the online version, when it's just like the online table. I don't find that all that engaging for me. And I haven't watched any of the Cube really yet. So I'm going to have to say that up until now, I don't have much of a comment on what can be improved until I actually dive in and watch some more. And I will before I speak to Alex and see if we can come up with some things.
It'd be funny. You have him on the podcast. He's like, "You like it?" You're like, "Well, I actually haven't watched any of it, so I don't really know." I got no idea, AD. I don't know I never watched the damn thing, man. That's the problem. Make me watch it. Get me to watch it. Make me want to turn it on and watch it. I guess that could be a goal. So, you know,
it could be interesting to see what happens after season one. Whoever wins, the off season could be actually potentially a more exciting time than the season. Talking about new signings, talking about maybe some trades. I don't know. Maybe, like, sometimes that's more exciting, and then, you know, people get geared up for season two. You can create some drama from season one to lead into season two. And this is just sort of like the first step towards creating something and building something over a couple seasons.
Maybe if we had the most popular poker player in the world in the GPL, we might see a little bit more interest in it, Daniel. I mean, it seems like you could have one of the biggest positive impacts in terms of drawing eyeballs and popularity to the thing. They should give you a contract without, I mean, it seems like you would have incentive if you can help the GPL become successful. It seems like there's some sort of way to structure a deal where you can have direct, that incentive is tied to that, similar to allegedly Pokerstars, you know, whatever, in the past year sort of thing.
Yeah, that's where my man Brian Ballsbog comes into play, right? So Brian Ballsbog advises me on ultimately I do whatever I want to do, you know, but he advises me, tells me what the right play is, the GTO play, and I typically listen to him more often than not. And like he likes Alex, I like Alex, we're both rooting for him. It just didn't seem to make sense for me yet at this point to get into a long-term contract in season one until we sort of like saw how things played out. And I'm not ruling out in the future that I won't, or, you know, for season two or going forward. Like, I'd like to see it thrive. I'd like to see it make sense where we both have, you know, incentive united to, like, make it work. And who knows? That's a possibility in the future. I'm not ruling it out. You know, I'm not saying it'll happen.
AD, listen, bring Daniel to the Chinese investor meeting. Tell the Chinese investors, we need this guy in the league to make it work. Give him something. Give him I don't know what they do. I don't know what you need.
You need that Cuba Gooden Jr. You need the GIF that where
he
said.
You want it? Yeah, you want it?
Yeah. No. No, I'm just playing, but that'd be funny.
I mean, good. I listen. If anyone can, Alex, man, he's I like that guy, man. He's cool, man. He brings the energy. I can't imagine you two in a conversation. Just got to be, dude, they could have led entrepreneur to casino, and then you get fired up. He gets fired up, and all of a sudden it's just I'm waiting for that podcast. You're gonna let him talk the whole time though, because it seems like that's gonna be your podcast hosting strategy so far from the first one. You just ask the question, you let him talk, you act a little surprised at the answer, you let him talk again. I like that approach. I like that.
GTO, approach. Right?
I mean, you like the word GTC. My plan of getting GTO.
I love it.
It's a great word. It's a great word, isn't it?
I actually think you could patent it, like seriously, because GTO can go mainstream. That's something that's cool enough. Like I use it all the time now, and I got it from you in the podcast. It's like definitely GTO for sure. It applies to so many different things.
That's what I'm saying. People are like, "Oh, you sound like it's what do you mean, dork saying GTO?" I'm like, "No, man, GTO. It doesn't. GTO. It's a GTO shirt for me. That's and GTO
the young kids people are saying. Of all the young kids, they're saying like basic and all these like words. Like GTO just is so much cooler than anything I've heard.
What are like the smart poker terms people use nowadays to sound smart at poker? What's trending right now? Is it? I think triple range merge kind of that one's gone away a little bit. What's the trending smart words these days in the live poker scene, Daniel?
In the live poker scene, well, I mean, in the mixed game, it's I gotta tell you, this is funny. It's props related, right? So Patrick Antonius has been playing with us. Me, Patrick, Gus, Phil Ivey, all the boys, sort of been like a reunion almost. We've been playing props pretty high. And apparently Patrick's won like a shitload playing props, right? Every day he's winning, playing the same stakes. So the last time I played, he was stuck like 350, playing the props part. And he's like, he looks at it, he's like, these props are playing big today. Like, what? He's like, he didn't want to play that high props anymore. And Phil Ivey was looking at him like, so they're playing too big today, huh? Just today, right? Just today the props are playing big because you're finally stuck for the first time ever. It finally dawned on him that the props were too big and he wanted to play for like half size and stuff like that. So all the lingo is props related, really kind of nerdy and boring, but it's good for the game because like, you're playing, the props play really big. You can get stuck like I lost the first day I played, came back, lost 436,000 in my first session back playing props. Man. Huh?
How rich? How much money are you making, kid? You just 430K. Bam, that's it. GG.
Yeah, my second prop session, I won 150 back.
Oh, what the? Wait
he goes, "What the was that?
Fuck is that? Wait a second. Hold on. Wait, go back.
Go back.
What? What's happening? You want that Spanish shakedown over there, puppy? What's going on? Who is that? Come say hello.
He thinks you're Spanish, honey.
Come say hello, mamacita. Coromosa caramolamita, mamacita. Hello.
He said, Coracita, mamalita, everything else.
Where'd you meet her? You meet her on the beach? You on that Barcelona beach grind or what?
No. I brought this one with me.
Travel call. Okay. Well, who is your girlfriend?
Yeah.
She's not in play poker,
right? I said it in public. She's shocked. Yeah. I usually keep that on the down low.
She doesn't play poker, right?
Doesn't like literally know anything about poker.
Okay, good, like, man. I feel like you're more GTO getting away from those poker chicks, man. You gotta get.
I would, it'd be nice if she knew like a little bit, so that way when we went with poker people, she understood a little. But no clue whatsoever.
Did you meet this one on Millionaire Matchmaker Part 2 that you went on?
Some stuff. No, this was not a Millionaire Matchmaker one. That was a one-time deal. That was fun. You should see her now. By the way.
What do you say?
You should see this girl now. She got in crazy shape. She had a baby with what's his name? He plays for played for San Diego, the running back. Then he went to the Eagles.
Ryan Matthews.
Yes, she had a baby with him. This is like a super baby. She sent me a picture. It's like the baby's got abs. He's way more ripped than you are. He's just
bang. I'm aspiring.
He's gonna be a super baby.
So the woman you went on a date with on the Millionaire Matchmaker show, she got pregnant by Ryan Matthews, the NFL player. True story. Opposite end of the spectrum, you got my boy Kid Poker, you got Ryan Matthews. I mean, he gets hurt a lot, but that's wild. Where'd you meet?
We have something in common, me and him, but I can't share that with you.
You what?
I said me and him have something in common in that regard, but I can't share that publicly.
Bang, bang. Okay, you got to see a receipt. Listen, when you sense deceit, you may ask for thy receipt. I'm going to see some receipts on that allegation, Poppy. You can't be dropping claims like that around here and not be backing it up, man, with a little proof. Bring the mamacita back in here. Let me get some verification. Yeah, I'm fired up today, man. DN, man, you get me fired up on the spot. Is she coming over?
She's coming. She's coming.
All right,
she's
let's see if she can beat
her first public appearance.
I just woke up.
So what? You want to put makeup on or something?
No.
You look fine. Say hello to Poppy.
Hi.
Hola, mamacita. Coramo, you speak español?
You speak the English?
I don't speak Spanish.
Are you American? Oh,
Yeah.
sorry. Hello, nice to meet you. What's your name?
Marissa.
Hi, Marissa. How are you doing? How long have you
Good,
been?
how are you?
How long have you and Daniel been together? You know, Daniel he's one of the biggest poker ambassadors in the game. People love this guy. They watch his Netflix documentary. They send him messages. It makes people cry. It's fucking awesome. If you haven't watched it, you got to watch it. Did you know that?
You play poker?
Yeah, that's a funny story, actually. First time I took her somewhere, we went to Starbucks, right?
Okay.
And we were sitting there having coffee or whatever. Like I wasn't having, and she knew I played poker, but didn't know what that meant. And then somebody came up and asked for a picture. And she looked at me like, "What? Who are you? Who are you?" She thought I set it up. She thought I had the guy come up and do it.
It's a pretty good strategy. Let's be honest here. I like that.
Yeah.
All right.
That
So
was like 2 years ago.
It was
2 years ago. Are you enjoying your time in Barcelona?
Yeah, I love it here. It's
You love it.
beautiful.
What do you agree with the rake changes as well too? I'm kidding. I just wanted to say hello. It's nice.
It's not my favorite of the lawn equipment. The rakes. Fuck the pros.
Yeah. She said it, not me.
What the hell's happening here, man? Did they put you in that little Truman candidate room back there too? The door oh my God, now I see what happened. Listen, it's very nice meeting you. I'm sure I'll meet you in person at some point in time, potentially at the PCA down in the Bahamas. Hopefully you go down to that one because that stop's beautiful as well.
Yeah. Well, it was nice meeting you too.
You too. I don't want to. Thank you.
All right.
Papi, Coramosa. I see those gym and workout sessions and those conditionings with the trainer been working out for you, huh?
Yeah, she's here with me too. Actually, I brought my trainer on this trip. I don't usually, but I love it. I didn't work out when I was like young and your age and stuff like that. It just I was grinding. I was grinding hard, all the time, playing 10, 12 hours a day. And then once I started working out, I love it. I couldn't imagine not working out. I'd be 75 and just in the gym lifting something. It's fun, man. I love it. I'm addicted.
I know it's fun. That's how I feel about basketball. I know I should stop playing 4 hours a day and burning 75,000 calories a day, but I'm waiting for you to play ball. You say you're playing soccer, right?
So I play soccer 3 times a week in 3 different leagues with a couple poker people. I love playing ball, basketball. There's Lifetime Fitness that has a league near me, but it's same times as soccer or whatever. I haven't played ball in a long time, so I'm going to be a step behind for sure. But I would totally join a league in Vegas. Probably an over 30 league because I don't want to get although I did go watch Huck Seed. You know Huck Seed is 46 now or something like that?
He's supposed to be pretty good.
Just a few years ago.
Yeah.
He's not just pretty good. When he was 35, 36, we went to, or it was 38 maybe. We went to a gym at UNLV and he was just playing pickup, right?
Mm-hmm.
And he was dominating, right? He was playing against vast majority of the players on the college team. And he was dunking on, he's quick, he's fast. I had a dumb prop bet. I lost him in basketball many years ago. David Oppenheim, robbed money from me, where we played 21 and I got 11-0 lead. And I got winners and losers outs. Okay.
Uh-oh.
And to make a long story short, I didn't hit rim. Not one time. 21-0. I never hit rim.
Would you be interested in making the same bet with myself?
No, clearly not.
Why? Come on, practice a little bit. You get to train.
I learned my lesson. I didn't. I beat a guy in that bet when he gave me 11-0 lead, and I beat him pretty handily. So I'm I can take Huck. But Huck was guarding me tight from the 3-point line. And he was faster than me, and he's 6'6". Didn't bode well for me. Yeah.
I'll give you the same bet. You get winners and losers out. If I make a shot, you get ball. You make a shot, you get ball. 11-0 lead. I'll be happy to make the same wager. If you're interested, you like a challenge, right? It's a challenge, Poppy.
I'll think about that one. How tall are you?
About 6'2".
That I can handle. 6'6" is a little
Bang,
much.
bang. Okay, nice. I'm ready, man. Let's go. Did you hear about, speaking of prop bets, hear about my prop bet with the young prince, the young retired high roller winner, Fedor Holsk?
What is this? You can't jerk off or something?
Yeah, so it's no jerking off and no masturbation and no pornography for the rest of the year. 3-1 odds, 9K to 3K. Not going to be able to do it. 3-1, 9K to win 3K. But like I put up 3.
So you're getting 3-1.
Correct.
Okay, so when you buy out, it won't be that expensive.
Listen, I'm not buying eyes. Widen up my range a little bit in terms of other activities that I can do. I mean, I shout out to the stalkers if you're watching. I'm sorry, but yeah, I widen up my range. I mean, I've got some strategy. Bill Perkins showed me a couple good documentaries. I've been on Reddit, no fap. I've been. Yeah. I mean, I don't know, man. It's
what constitutes porn? Like, can you watch Sarah Jean Underwood do naked yoga, or is that considered porn?
I don't think
you're gonna Google that now.
I wouldn't want to watch
Sarah Jean Underwood. Not that I've watched it. Sarah Jean Underwood naked yoga. Not that I haven't watched it or have watched it.
I took you more for like
considered porn.
I took you more for like a gangbang kind of guy, not a Sarah Jean Underwood hard softcore yoga porn. I took you as like a more hardcore, like a rough kind of guy.
I don't know about that, but I'm definitely a fan of hers. She seems like she's a very nice lady. I actually played with her on the $1 Million Challenge we had a long time ago. Very, very, very nice woman, and rather attractive, and certainly up my alley in terms of body type and everything else.
Yeah, man, you got a type. You love these blonde women in shape. You like the blonde athletic girl grind, man. That is what it seems like you're into, my friend.
I have a pretty wide range as well. Gifted. I was on the Asian grind for a very long time. I actually married one time. Mm-hmm. Korean. I was on the Korean grind before.
The KGG.
Before that, but huh?
The KGG, the Korean girl grind.
I was on the KGG for a little while. Yeah, I lived with one once, and then I married one.
You plan to get married again or what, man? Marriage does not sound optimal to not gonna be able to, no?
I did it one time.
For the right moment, for the right person, Daniel, I'm gonna put you in the Truman room now. For the right moment, I would love to marry someone. If we have that special connection, I feel like she's just the one for me and she makes my heart melt so much. I would love to lock down with that person for the rest of my life and only be with her if it comes up.
I did almost get married one other time. This was a crazy night where it was New Year's, and it was Amanda Leatherman. We were out, and I was like totally in love with that girl. So we were out, we were really drunk, and we were in a limo going back to my place, and she screamed like she was silly, and she screamed, "Let's go get married." And seemed like a good idea at the time. So I told the limo driver to drive us down to the chapel, right? And I didn't know this, but the rules had changed in Vegas by that point, where you have to get a marriage license before midnight, right? And it was like 1:30 or 2 o'clock in the morning. So that saved me my second divorce.
You think you would have gotten married that night?
100%. I was looking to make a ring out of some like metal or something like that. Yeah, I was totally down that night.
I love it, man. Mm-hmm. Yeah, it seems like, I mean, I remember you guys had some moments on the Pokerstars Big Game. Shout out to the Pokerstars Big Game. A great show, one of my favorite shows that I loved. You guys had some fun. I heard, maybe typically the blonde athletic girls, they tend to be a little wild, Daniel. They tend to be a little wild sometimes. And I guess that may have been but you guys are friends now. I saw you guys were conversating and you were friendly on social media with each other.
Oh, yeah, totally. That was many years ago. All's good. I saw her for the first time after probably 4 or 5 years last year when I went to go play the national championship in Cherokee or whatever, and she was living there at the time. So we caught up and we had a blast. We went to with her fiance at the time, which that ain't a thing no more. We went to it was kind of crazy because we went out and she took us. She said, "Let's go to a gay club." So we went to a gay club, and then somehow there's like a picture in the Toronto Sun of me with my shirt off, her grabbing my shirt off at a gay club.
Wait, whoa, back up, 2 steps back. Okay, so who's in the gay club now? Who went to the gay club first of all? You and her, and who else?
Me, her fiance, her, and who else was with it?
Is this like a cuckold situation where, like, I mean, what's happening?
Like two of her friends that were gay. No, two of her friends that were gay that wanted to go to that club. So she said, let's go. They were like her best friends or something like that.
Okay, so can you walk me through the process? The two friends are there, male friends or female friends?
Male.
Okay, two male gay friends there. You're there. Her fiance's there. How does your shirt end off with a picture being taken of that? How does that happen?
So she was drunk and being silly, and she was like behind me, like dancing or something like that. And I had like buttons on the shirt. It was a GTO shirt for this exact thing. It was. See, I love that word. It would just rip off, and she did, like, you know, ripped it off, and I don't remember. We were drunk, and it was like near this like wrestle pit, like oil wrestling pit.
What the fuck are you? You get in the wrestle pit
right,
too while you were there, or what?
We didn't get in the wrestle pit, but I don't know. Then somebody took a picture. I posted on my Instagram, and then in the Toronto Sun newspaper, it was like a full page picture of that. When I went back to Toronto.
Negreanu, homosexual or not? Find out tonight on the news. Is that what it said? What was the headline say?
The ad was about, like, I was doing we're doing a Pokerstars party at the Real Sports Bar in Toronto, and he just did an interview about a whole bunch of stuff, and he went through all my pictures or whatever, and he just decided, he said, can we use whatever we want from your Instagram? I'm like, sure. And so he went ahead and used that one just to tell the story, because I was in Cherokee and I went there the next day to Toronto.
So were you working out a lot around this time? That's why you didn't mind your shirt being off in the gay club and getting in the Toronto Sun? I mean, you must have. I ain't seen this photo. I don't know. I'm trying to, like.
No, the photo's not, like, it's not GTO. See, so just so you know, like, my goal was to gain some muscle. So part of that process is like gaining weight and not doing as much cardio. So I wouldn't call it GTO picture, because I wasn't like I don't have no 8-pack or 6-pack. I still don't. But that's the plan. After this, as soon as Barcelona's over, I'm going on what I call a PSP.
What's that PSP?
Personal strategic plan.
PSP
is personal.
So you want a 6-pack or you want to put on mass?
I'm going to lean out. I'm like 170 right now. And that's like, I lost the bet on that too, which is another stupid story. I want to get to like 165, like, but lean, some of the stomach. And I got a plan.
I was trying to think, when we can make, if you've had a 6-pack before, right?
Mm-mm. No, there's probably one in there. It's just covered with some love.
Maybe we should make a 6-pack prop bet.
6-pack's harder for me. I'm 42,
True.
It's, I don't know. It's really, like, it means something. Like, age is an issue when it comes to 6-pack. Like, I've talked to a lot of people, and they go, it's way harder, especially if you've never had one before, because muscle memory is a thing, and I never had a 6-pack, so I don't, that's.
Are you allowed Are you allowed to break terms of service potentially in this scenario to gain a 6-pack?
What terms of service?
The government terms of service as set forth by the government. Are you allowed to potentially break those terms of services to potentially acquire supplements that may aid you?
Oh, steroids?
I mean, I'm not. You want to say maybe HGH? I don't know what they're taking, man. I don't know what they're.
No, I'm not down. I'm not down for that. The only thing I'd take, but this doesn't help with 6-pack. It just helps with mass. Is creatine. Like 5 milligrams of that. Just like a little supplement. It's very small. Adds a little bit of liquid to your. You ever take creatine?
I take creatine. My usual pre-workout is some of this plant-based. I don't know. I got some Whole Foods plant-based pre-workout mixed with glutamine and creatine. So that's usually my pre-workout that I take. And then I think Sean Laporte was saying that he sometimes takes that during his workouts too, if he's working out pretty hard, if he's lifting heavy. So he'll take that during too.
So you think it's better taking before? Because I do that too. I take creatine and glutamine, and I do a pre-workout. It's a Vega. It's like 5 calories. It's like pre-workout. It gives me energy. But I do the creatine and glutamine after the workout. Is it better before?
I'm not 100% sure which one's better. I know, like we're going to sound like two fish speculating about health stuff. I'm in the chat. Everyone's on that fucking workout pro on the internet. I'm sure everyone's gonna be like, oh my God, don't take creatine. It's got this 75 carbonites in it. It's not going to be good for you, Joey. You got to take Jacatine. That's all. Whenever you get into the fitness and diet, these guys come out of the woodwork. These guys, oh my God, it's crazy, man. It's crazy. Are you on like a vegan? You're vegan, right? You still vegan?
Vegan, gluten-free. Eat pretty clean in that area. And I'm going to do, like, I did this P90X thing a long, long time ago. And there was one diet when I first did it where I lost like 8 pounds of fat pretty much in 1 month. And it's basically just like a high protein diet for 1 month. So when I go back from this trip I'm going to do like 1 month of just like high protein, like low everything else, just for 1 month to shred, and then I'll start eating like a normal person again.
All right, here's what I'm thinking. PCA this year, me, you, hot body contest at the Cove pool, best of 3. So we get 3 days. So if one day you're not wound up, that's fine. But we get to pick 3 days. Each of us picks one. If it's a tiebreaker, the other we get a neutral judge to pick that last day. Hot body contest. We can't talk though. I mean, well, if we could talk, I feel like I could probably. I don't know. If we could talk, that might change the scenario a little bit. But I'm up to negotiate it. Hot body contest, Cove pool. We got to ask 40, 30, 40 people. 40 people each contest. What do you think? Okay,
so here's the issue. You kind of have a head start, like a pretty good, solid head start, right? You have more mass. You're in better shape. You're younger.
That's not true. I'm out of shape, Daniel. You're tripping now. I'm not in good shape. You're okay. So, and that's fine, and that's okay. We can give you. We'll give you. We can give you some.
I just don't.
We can
it doesn't
give you
seem like that would be the bet. Maybe we'll have to do some other like physical bet. Like how many pull-ups can you do?
I don't know. I can't tell you. I can't. I don't know. I'm not sure. It's a good question, right? I don't know. If I train to do anything, I could do them. I could do a lot of them. I'm sure.
Okay. Well, maybe we could do some sort of 3-way thing where we do like, push up, pull up, and something else, and like do a best of 3, where you just do max reps or something like that.
Okay.
I'm not good at any of that, by the way.
I'm not good at any of that either, dude. I mean, I've never really done those before.
Like the most push-ups I've ever done is 40.
Most push-ups you ever done is 40?
40 straight, yeah.
Yeah, I don't think that's a lot. I mean, yeah, that's something. That sounds fun. I mean, that's fun. Push-ups, pull-ups. I mean, it's gonna get us in really good shape. It doesn't matter. Like, we'll be good. So push-ups, pull-ups, and what could the third one be then? Squat. Not wall sits. I can't do those very well. Could be
plank.
We could do plank.
I'm brutal with planks. Can you do planks?
Not really. I've never really worked at these things before, so I've never trained to just do. I'm not doing burpees. Fuck's sakes, man. Jesus Christ.
Burpees are death.
Yeah, burpees. No, we're not doing burpees, man. No, I ain't gonna be able to do it. All right, so planks, pull-ups, and push-ups.
All right.
Okay. PCA next year.
The triple threat. Best 2 out of 3.
Best 2 out of 3. What's the stipulations?
I don't know, man.
Loser goes nude into the ocean. Well, I'm kidding. I already did that last year. But what could the stipulations be? I didn't lose. Bang, bang.
Like, what would be the bet? What would be the bet for?
Yeah, it could be something. I don't need money. I mean, we got to think of something fun to do. Where like someone's got to, someone got to do something. I can't think of what though. We'll figure out the thing. You maybe got something. You got something in mind?
We're gonna get you in a gay club wearing a G-string.
What the fuck?
And be like, you got to be into it. It's got to be pink. You got to have heels on. You got to have whipped cream on your nipples.
Where are the gate? Wait a second. I can't be no pink G-string. That's out of line. They're gonna kick me out. It'd be in Hollywood. It'd be like deep in Hollywood. You gotta.
I think if you went to West Hollywood, you'd fit right in, right there. You'll be all right.
Well, I've been to a gay club in West Hollywood this year with Ginge from WPT and another WPT woman, and it was a lot of fun. I got felt up by guys, and I understood how women felt. It feels. They violate your space, man. They're like, you're sexy. I'm like, please. Okay, I get it. I'll get how women feel now. It's not good. It doesn't feel good.
So you had white male privilege. You were experiencing white male privilege.
Yeah.
Like until that point.
Yeah, it's terrible. I know. I agree. All right. So what can the stipulations be? Well, we got to figure this out. Give us the suggestion on Twitter, please, for what we should potentially have the stipulation be for our prop bet. Most pull-ups, most push-ups, and most time planking. Does the plank have to be the good? You have to be in the GTO shape, or there's like some proper form for that, or are we gonna?
Yeah, I think you have to you can't just be like in a V like that. That's too
right.
Easy,
that's what I mean. Yeah, it's got to be like proper form. As we'll get Jay Kuhn somehow involved. He obviously knows everything about proper form for everything. Yeah, I think Jay Kuhn. I think Jay Kuhn could know. All right, so loser gets his nipples pierced on camera.
Fuck that. I'm not down with that.
I mean, I'd be in for that. I mean, I'd be in for that. I mean, that could be something.
No, I don't need no body pain. Not like no piercings.
Okay, we'll figure something out, man. We'll figure something out here. So how'd your World Series go? I saw you out there. I saw you conversating a lot with the people. You do great. You do great with conversating with the fans at the World Series of Poker. I enjoyed seeing that. How did it overall go in terms of playing games and cash games and the tournaments?
Well, during the World Series, I don't play any cash games. I just grind the tournaments. But I had fun. Like, I had a lot of fun. I did something a little different than I normally do. I was showing up on time for all the 10Ks and as much as I could. I was playing the early levels because the structures were a little faster. So I was trying to, like, get some more chips and really give it my all. I cashed a bunch. I cashed, what did I cash? 9 caches or something like that. And, you know, had some deep runs. My most fun tournament was the 50K 8 game, which is my favorite every year. And I know you don't play mixed games yet, but once you start, you're going to like, you might not because you're a PLO guy. And PLO guys don't necessarily like limit games. But that was my closest real shot at some big money. I came 12th. I had a 4th in Raz. So overall, I would say it was like my results were disappointing, but my play, I would give myself a solid B. There's 2 key folds I made. One was in Raz and one was in Stud 8. And I made 2 folds on the river getting ridiculous price, like laid just a stupid good price, and I folded and got bluffed twice. In Raz, I got bluffed by a guy who showed me a full house. It's like, okay, and I folded an 8 low. And those were really like bad mistakes that potentially cost me. But other than that, I think like you're going to make mistakes. If you do the grind for 6 weeks and you play every day, you know, you tried it for a little bit, like 12 hours a day. It's like, it's a grind. And, you know, sometimes you just zone out and make a mistake and that's going to happen. So overall, I didn't make that many and I'm happy enough with my play, but I know there's room for like improvement to, right. You know, especially in some of those spots, just taking my time a little bit.
Yeah, I got to say, man, you know, I never really played the World Series of Poker events. This was kind of my first year I played them. And I made 2 day 2s and I went pretty deep on another day 2. I had no idea that is, man, you are wore out. You get there. If you get there on time, you're starting at what, like noon or 2, you're playing till 2, 3 a.m. Man, that's brutal. And the most important decisions are usually going to be at the end of the night, going to that next day. You're tired. I feel like, Vic, do you think it's that big of an edge for someone who can really get an understanding of their diet, of their workouts? They can maybe figure out how to take care of themselves on break, how to balance those things out. Do you feel like you gains a lot of value from being able to manage that? Or do you think that it might not matter as much?
It just has to matter, right? Like when you're playing that many hours and like going back to back, if you're going to do the full grind, if you don't have those other things in order, like you're not sleeping enough, you're not physically fit, you're going to feel shitty, you're going to be grumpy, and nobody plays better when they're feeling shitty and grumpy. And like some of the worst days of the World Series are days where you're on to day 2 in a tournament, right? So you bust that on day 2, then you jump into the 11 a.m. event, and then, you bust that, and then you play the 3 p.m. event, and then you bust that. You play like 3 tournaments in a day and just feel like a zombie when it's all over, like you just got punched like 3 times in the face. It's like emotionally draining, physically draining, like intellectually draining. It's something that people that are in shape, and that's the biggest shift I've seen over the last 5-6 years probably, is especially with the super high rollers, right? And when I grew up playing poker, it was fat people, smoking, drinking, like lazy, played for 3-4 days. And now I'm playing these super high rollers and I go to the gym and it's like 15 people in there, 20 people. Like, and they're all like, Dan Coleman, Jay Kuhn, like Scott Clemens, they're all just ripped to shreds. Like watching Scott Clemens in the gym, I don't know if you've seen it. It makes me tired just watching him go. It's pretty impressive. Drinks 3 bottles of wine at night, goes in the morning and just works out, does cardio for like 3 hours. It's crazy. But the World Series is a special time where I think if you don't plan ahead, it's going to cause you some issues at some point throughout the 6 weeks.
No, I never really understood that. I never understood what people said that it's draining. I'm like, man, how's it draining? You're playing poker. Online poker is not that. I mean, I guess it is draining, but it seems like if you can't manage that diet, if you get off track with your diet, and All-American Dave's got a good setup out there because I feel like you have to be doing that. And if you miss a day and you play the next day, your schedule gets out of whack, your body's out of whack. It just seems incredibly challenging. And I want to meet someone who has this down and like understands the best approach for it. And I guess maybe even Fedor, Fedor puts all these hours in. He's zombied at the end. We had him on the podcast after he's done. He's like, oh my God, I'm ready to retire. He retired and to win the high roller now. And I mean, yeah. So you end up up or down for the summer then?
Oh, I was down because I'm down on the year because timing matters so much. Like if you have results in smaller events, it's like whatever. But if you don't do well in the super high roller events, it's like, you could be playing in events that pay less than you put into a high roller. So I had to fire 2 bullets into the 100K where I flopped set over set twice. First bullet, middle set against top set, and then second bullet, bottom set against middle set. So that's $222,222 stuck there. So I don't know exactly what I'm down for the World Series, but I know on the year I'm stuck close to 900,000, I think, in terms of I've probably spent about 1.2 in buy-ins and only cashed for like 300. So are
you a billionaire at this point? How much? God damn, man, you're just casually losing $430,000 a day in props, man. What the man, Pop? Give me your agent. Get me in touch with Brian, man. I'm trying to. Yeah.
This has been a down year so far, but if you look at my last 3 years, I did pretty good. Like 4 million 3 years ago. Then I had that big $8.7 million second place in the one drop. And then last year I did well as well. I won like another 2-3 million. So, I've had a pretty lucky career throughout my life. I think I've only had one losing year in tournaments in 2000. And, this could be my second if I don't turn it around. But I won't be too disappointed because the sample size for the super high rollers is pretty small, And if you blank off like 6 or 7 of them, you don't hit nothing. That could be your whole year, basically. That's like, that's just like $1 million right there.
So why do you think that you are still around playing in these games, having success, and the players that were the big time guys, the names back in the day, a lot of those guys aren't around anymore. I mean, really, it seems like I guess Eric Seidel, but he's not the loud talkative type. Out of the loud players who talked a lot, who were these personalities, it really seems like you're the person I was thinking about this when I was walking in. I'm like, so what is it about Daniel why is he still around here? You're still having success in these. It's not like you're just donating money in them. You're still having results. You're doing good. So what do you think it is about you that has allowed you to still have success in this day of the poker age in 2016?
I think there's a few things. Number one is respect for the fact that young grinders are putting in hard work and they know stuff. And there's stuff I can learn from them. I think a lot of times when someone has success, like, Phil Hellmuth, right? Thinks, he's gotten to a point where like, he does, it's just lack of awareness and that people are learning things and they're learning to do things potentially better than you. And if you don't stay ahead of the curve and you don't learn what they've learned, then your strategies may fall behind. The second part of that is self-awareness. I know what I do well. I know what my strengths are and I know where my weaknesses may lie. So I play in such a way, I have a style and a system that works to my strengths. And I think Phil Hellmuth, oddly enough, if you watch some of that super high roller bowl, he was doing some really crazy shit, but it actually is really good for him specifically because his biggest weaknesses, and I'll share it with the world, not that they don't know, is his post-flop play, right? Mm-hmm. Once you get him to a flop, he plays relatively weak flop, turn, and river. Like he makes these little donk bets here, but like he'll just shut it down. So what he does is he makes these huge oversized raises pre and these oversized 3-4 bets with 9-3 offsuit, 8-2 offsuit. And he picks up chips that way because unless somebody has a hand, there's just like no defense. And what he does though is he forces people to play pre-flop poker with him because he doesn't give you sizing to call with 7-8 suited and king jack and all that. He makes you he forces you in decision for all your chips, right? And he's taking big risks when he does that, but it masks his weaknesses. Now for me, my weaknesses are different. Pre-flop play, hand selection, I like to play a lot of pots, probably more than you should. In some spots, probably a lot of hands that people would advise not to play. Like 6-4 suited is not a hand you're supposed to play. I like it, so I'm going to play it. And it works well with my overall GTO strategy for me. Mm-hmm. So I play some of those hands that I think play well post-flop. So part of that strategy, I don't 3-bet nearly as much as what's GTO because I like to merge my stronger hand. I like to get away with seeing more flops in my weaker hands. And if let's say if I'm
You're doing the
flat.
Gavin
Go
Smith
ahead.
strategy, the flat call strategy. If your boy raises, you got pocket kings, you flat call. Your boy raises, you got the 2-7, you flat call. It's the old Gavin Smith strategy video he made for the whiskey back in 2008, and that's it's a flat call strategy. Okay, so you want a flat call, you want to keep all your strong hands and all your weak hands in your range.
Well, I think it's important in tournaments, especially sometimes when if you got guys with 20 bigs behind 30 bigs that are going to get ship happy, right? So if a guy raised under the gun and you're in third position and you want to see a flop with 10 jack of spades, right?
Mm-hmm.
Well, but if everybody knows when you flat there, you're not like super strong, then, because you're always 3-betting your super strong hands. I want to do that also with kings, with ace king, with queens, with big hands too. So if they do decide to rip at it, I can make a play at it. And I know the smart guys know enough now that when I call in those spots, I could have aces or kings. So it sets me up for some rare but well-timed 4-bet bluffs after flatting. You know what I'm saying? Did you get the move I'm making here?
I mean, you're explaining this is how you start to beat the mid stakes online. Is you then take advantage of these people who may not be adjusting to what you're doing properly, and you can exploit what they think about your image.
Yeah.
I mean, this is kind of how you get better.
I definitely do.
Yeah.
I do not play GTO. That's for sure. I play exploitative, and I think that the tournaments are still good enough where that's winnable. Like you can do that, and I think it's hard to play, or it's hard to think about a tournament in a vacuum from a GTO perspective because you don't have enough of a sample size where it should matter. Like being balanced. What?
I 100% agree with you on that one. Yeah.
Yeah. Like being balanced in a tournament is kind of stupid. Like you might be at a tournament and play 4 hours with a guy. So your bet size, you know that, I shouldn't bet too much here because it's not GTO, but the guy's going to pay it off. And it probably won't matter in the future that it's not GTO when you bet less when you're bluffing. So you just pick the spot that makes the most sense for that moment. And then if you somehow down the line have so much experience with a guy, you might want to think about balancing against that player. But I think a huge mistake that cash game players may make when they make the switch to tournaments is feeling like they need to be GTO balanced. It's true in PLO and it's true in No Limit Hold'em or any tournament. You really shouldn't, because that's not being as exploitative as you probably should be in a tournament, in my opinion.
Those old guys, they don't even know what Daniel just said. Those guys that were the well-known poker players back in 2007, they listen to Daniel, they don't even know what he just said. That's why they're not playing. And okay, so people in the chat are saying, because Daniel's got this alleged deal with Pokerstars, he gets $35 million a year. So, okay, let's say Daniel didn't get that deal. You're telling me he can't get back for tournaments? He can still get backed, okay? Listen, he don't need to have any money. He'll get back for tournaments for the rest of his life. He can still be playing the tournaments if he wanted to play. The point is he's having success in the tournaments, right? It's not about, he can still play. You'll be able to play tournaments for the rest of your entire life. You could break 1,000 in a row. You always be able to sell action for tournaments.
I believe so. And one of the things that I think if you see in the documentary, in the Kid Poker documentary, which is about my life, a lot of things that people don't know is that I did work hard. I worked hard in a different era, but I worked really hard and was able to reach, at the time, the highest levels of cash games before the poker boom in 2003. I was playing 4 and 8,000. I was, playing with million-plus bankroll in cash games and also succeeding in tournaments. And I've always had a firm belief in my own ability to adjust and learn and study and get better at something. It's kind of where the comment came from that I'll take responsibility for was pretty stupid to say in the way that I said it, was that I could beat 25-50 online in 2 weeks. I believe what I said is I believe I could do it. I didn't think in my head I'm a favorite to do it, but I believe part of my brain believes I could 15 hours a day, super grind with all the best players, and they teach me everything I need to know, and I could get good enough, to do that. I believe that I could have. It's not something that I wanted to do, so I should have shut my mouth. If you're not going to back it up, you should just shut your mouth. So I should have shut my mouth in that. But whether it's high stakes tournaments or cash games or whatever, if I didn't have a bankroll that was sufficient, I believe that there's no reason why I couldn't put in the same kind of work that I have in my past and have the same drive to succeed. If I had $5,000 to my name and that's it and no borrowing power, I believe that I would be able to succeed in poker just by getting back on the grindstone.
I mean, I 100% agree I understand what you're saying. I feel like a lot of people out there who've never put in the work to become really successful at something know what you're saying, though, because the only way you can really relate to that is if you've actually done that before. Because anytime you have this high level of success at something, you understand the hard work that you went into it. So you know you can replicate that in other areas. And if you don't, I mean, you believe you can. So if you believe you can do it, who's to say you can't do it, right? I mean, if you've done it time after time, then that confidence sticks with you for a long time. And I mean, you essentially, you probably believe that you can do almost anything if you really put the time in with the work ethic and the skill of learning that you possess.
One of the best like life lessons and learning lessons in my career that I've had come from failure, come from blowing my load, playing
Bang,
2
bang.
and 4, 4 and 800, blowing it all, and then having to go back and play 30-60 or 15-30 and grind 70, 80, 90 hours a week so that I can get a bankroll to get back in the game. So I can get back into 81-60, 2 and 4, and doing it. And then like really feeling a sense of accomplishment and knowing that it was actually a bet. We were back in the day, when I was in my early 20s, we'd go to Spearmint Rhino occasionally. It's not fun for me anymore. I don't know. I'd just be like, whatever, I'll get other people dances. But I would go when I was in my early 20s, whatever. So we were we're drinking, and my friends would tell me like, why do you play those high stakes? It's stupid. Just, you don't have the work ethic anymore. You couldn't play 30-60, whatever. And so I was like, I'll bet you I can put in 140 hours in 2 weeks playing 30-60 and make 20,000, which is what I said I would do, which was like, I don't know, more than a big bet an hour, 20,000 in 2 weeks. And I didn't have any money. So I borrowed from Huck Seed, actually. He lent me $2,800 or something like that, which is not enough to play the game. And make a long story short, I put in 146 hours and I won 23,000 in that 2 weeks. And it was like, the bet I made with them was not like a bet for money. It was like, some stupid bet that we had, but it was more just like to prove that I could do it. It was one of the best things I ever did, because it like really just, because when you have this poker lifestyle, I'm sure you get this, waking up at 7 p.m. It's kind of loose. You don't really have any structure. You could be a goof off for 2 weeks, and who's holding you accountable? Nobody, right? So it's important to have that work ethic. If you want to take this seriously, and this isn't advice to you necessarily, but part of that comes with some structure and saying, okay, how many hours am I going to work? When am I going to do it? Where's the structure in my life? And if you don't have a boss, it's very easy to play the party lifestyle, and just like, I listened to Dan and Kate's podcast, and it was just like, my boy, Dan O'Brien, like total shit show. Every time he's like, I want to work hard, I want to do this. Woo, EDC. You know what I mean?
Right.
So, yeah.
I mean, you mentioned two things. One, you mentioned something about blowing your load being mistakes. And one of the biggest mistakes I could make this year for the rest of the year is actually blowing my load. So it's kind of interesting you chose those choice of words, because I'm very fearful of blowing my load as well. And I don't want that to be a $9,000, $3,000, $9,000, $12,000 swing. So, and then the second part is, the second part is that you mentioned about you doing this prop bet, and you being able to achieve something like that instilled this belief and confidence in you. And I took the same exact route, because when I came up in poker, one of the first years I did a prop bet where I had to play 600,000 hands in a month. I did that. Next year I did a 50,000 hand in a day. I ended up winning that bet as well too. Or a PLO bet, I had Supernova Elite bet. I played 450,000 PLO hands in December against Supernova Elite. And meaning that is that I made these prop bets, and that because I've won these prop bets, anyone that knows me knows I have a lot of confidence that if I put the time in and work in to do that, and it's directly from making those bets. It's directly from those moments. And I mean, after talking with Bill Perkins, he mentioned he likes to make bets with his friends for the better of them. And that's how I think that I molded my mind to become sort of with the work ethic and so now I've started making a lot of bets. That's why I'm trying to get a bet with you. I got a bet with Fedor. That's why, I already had the bet with Fedor, but I made a lot of bets since that podcast that I feel like are really going to help me out with my own life and just be productive and achieve things and accomplish things that might be a little bit outside that, you feel like it's going to take work. And those are the kind of bets that I want to do. Those are the kind of challenges I want to take on. So I think that people out there try to find something like that for sure, whether it's poker related or whether it's life related or whether it's whatever it is that you're passionate about related. Just try to find something that you can feed off of that success and bring it over to other parts of your life.
Yeah. Well, there's definitely various ways to, create structure in your life. And I want to share one more story where it really, really started for me. And I was a teenager, and I was playing poker at the time, and I was also booking sports. I was booking baseball, right? And they had these one group of guys who would like just bet the biggest favorite on the board all the time. And there's this one night where like there was 8 games they bet all 8, and I was up in 6 of them and tied in 2, and I was up big in all of them, right? And so the next morning I wake up, one game I was up 8-0, 7-2 in the 10th inning, lost that one, 11-10, lost the 8-0. So the guy calls me. He's like, we got to meet up. I'm like, yeah, we do. Thinking like he's going to pay me some big money. And I was like, how did I do? And they went 8-0, right? Mm-hmm. So I owed them like $8,000 or something. Well, I had this group of Asians who were betting with me. They're betting parlays and stuff like that. And they owed me $12,000, right? So I had the money to cover the $8,000 with what I had plus the 12. Problem is they didn't pay.
Right.
Okay? They didn't have the money. So now I'm screwed. I don't have the $8,000 to pay. So I'm in a bad spot. Like, I'm out of integrity. Luckily, this guy was cool. And what he did was he said, okay, well, he put me on a payment plan to pay off the debt. So every week I was playing 10-20 Hold'em, and I paid him on Fridays, every Friday, $500 until the debt was paid. And they ended up paying him like 3 weeks early. That was the best thing one of the best things that ever happened to me in my career, because I was forced to have structure. I finally had a reason why I had to take it seriously, because there was things outside of just playing and, being a gambler that required me to take this seriously like a business. And that was that was just a very pivotal moment in my life, in my trajectory as a poker player.
Daniel, you sound like you were a terrible fucking bookie, my friend. What are you doing? You can't pay out the 8K because someone owes you 12K. It's not GTO, man.
I was great booking. You know what I did? I was a crooked bookie. No, I was a crooked book, and I'll tell you why I was crooked.
No,
I knew who they were.
You're breaking TO. Are you sure you want to say this? You're breaking some potential TOS from back in the day. I hope they're not watching.
I was a teenager, okay? Who cares? Teenagers do dumb things. But I was a crooked book. Well, somewhat crooked. I knew who they were betting. I knew they were betting Oral Hershiser at home, laying 260. So I made the line 3. I would always juice them extra on the lines that they thought they were, I knew they were going to go. They could have just outsmarted me, went the other way. I just knew they never would, right? So I set the lines knowing who they go with. And
that sounds smart.
Just happened to just win.
That sounds like a smart thing to do. That sounds like that's what you probably should have been doing.
Yeah, but it's kind of like, typically if you're a bookie, you set a line that's the line. But I would set the line just dependent upon the person. The guy like the Chicago Bulls. Oh, I know he's always betting Chicago Bulls against Phoenix here. So they're -7, but now they're -8.5. You know what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
All right, a couple more topics, and I'll wrap things up. Daniel, I noticed the site, fullcontactpoker.com. It's redesigned, looks good. You got any plans for the site? What are you thinking about from that angle?
Well, it was about time. The site was pretty outdated, a lot of text and stuff like that. So my man Gov, who the guy who runs my site, actually I met through one of the first FCP weekends that I did. I used to have these weekends where I'd have 12 fans, whatever, come out and we play games and have fun and stuff like that. And he was one of them. And then he became the guy who started to run the site. So really the site's just there for the podcast and updated blog, because my blog, it was shitty. I couldn't post pictures. I didn't know how to do anything really well. So I just kind of cleaned it up, use it for whatever. I have no real monetary plans. The podcast, I'm not planning on monetizing it.
Oh,
I look at it.
You got to Daniel, you got to monetize your podcast. That's what everybody tells me. Monetize. How are you making any money, Joey? How do you make money off that thing? I'm like, calm the fuck down, guys. Gee, you better not tell them. Don't mention the word monetization in podcasts to people. They're going to be messaging you, telling you what you have to be doing, Daniel. Please.
I already have sponsors organizations I'm involved with that I do it for. It's not like Pokerstars didn't tell me, or Poker Central didn't tell me you need to start a podcast. I do it because part of the value that I want to bring to them is relevance to them specifically. So expect to hear on podcasts. I'm going to talk a little bit about what's going on with Pokerstars. I'll talk a little bit about what's going on with Poker Central. But I do that not because they're telling me to, or not because they're paying me to run the podcast. It's just one more outlet to create value. And remember, if you listen to my podcast with Brian, he talked about the way to create, to get sponsorship and stuff is you got to create value for yourself. How would this guy be valuable to our company or our site? So one of the ways to do that is the stuff that you do and stuff like that. Are you turning down sponsors, or you're just you're not getting any that are juicing you?
I'm going to answer that question, but I've been drinking too much water from this bottle. I'm going to go to the bathroom. I'm going to give you, that's a great question. I'm going to answer that question in a second, but talk about your plans for the rest of the poker year.
Talk about my plan. Okay, good. We'll go slow.
Plans for after Barcelona when you go back home? Go ahead. I gotta, hold on. I really got it. I don't want to use a piss bottle like you did on the live stream that one time. You brought it to the bathroom.
Okay, so my plans for the rest of the year, after this tournament, head home back to Vegas And then I have a few things that are up in the air. I've got some tricky things to do scheduling wise. I've got the 100K, the W Coop 100K, which seems really fun to play in. It's got a re-entry too, which seems pretty crazy. I talked to Jason Somerville maybe about like doing some kind of fun stream around it too. I know that sounds really stupid, but I think most people know how I play anyway, so I won't be giving up as much as most would in a tournament like that. And I think it's kind of fun to play the leveling war of when people can see your cards and they know what you're doing. I don't know, it's stupid probably. And if I didn't have money, I probably would never do something that dumb.
That sounds real fun, Daniel. You're right. Can't think of a better time to spend $111,000 tournament, show my cards to the players to give them an edge on me. It sounds like fun, right?
Well, I think people would love it, don't you? I think people would really enjoy it.
Of course they would. Of course, why wouldn't they love it? Of course they would.
Yeah, I think it'd be fun. So I might do that. And then, of course, I'll be playing the main event, the 8 game, the last little bit of W Coop. After that, I have my charity event that I do for St. Jude's. This is going to be our 3rd year where we raise money for St. Jude's. This is like celebrity poker tournament. There'll be more information on that. That happens in November. Ooh, shit, I can't say yet. It's in November. Okay. Then, doing the final table thing with my boy Phil Hellmuth, which we do that like, segment in between on the breaks and stuff where we go over what's going on. And outside of that, what other tournaments am I playing? The WPT, Bellagio, which is always a good one, the 5 Diamond. And they have 100K as well, I think. So there's a few tournaments left, but I'm in danger of not hitting one of my goals. My goal this year was to play 55 or more tournaments, and I'm at 44 right now. So I got to find some on the schedule. Maybe I'll join Carrie and at the Aria and play some of those 25Ks on the weekend if they have them.
I love Daniel. Yeah, I think, I think it'd be a real fun time to play the 100K and show my whole cards. It's real fun. It's re-entry. So if I bust out once or twice, I can just re-enter. It's fine. I'm not just wasting 100K. I can spend 300K on it. Yeah, I'm going to stream it. I think it'd be fun. Everybody knows how I play anyway, so I might as well just show them. I think people would like it. Yeah, I'm with it.
How sick if I win, though, right? How sick would it be if I win,
It seems like a very non-GTO degenerate approach to take to it. But I agree with, listen, I want you to do it. And I think Doug Polk probably might, he might do it too. I don't know. You might have some competition on Twitch, Poppy. You might have some competition.
I'll bet you
for
he
that,
doesn't do it.
Wait,
I'll bet you he doesn't do it.
You don't think he's that rich, huh? Yeah, he might. He probably won't do it. You're right. Speaking of, you said charity tournament. So is one of your prizes some coaching with Jamie Gold? I saw some charity tournaments this year. 2nd place coaching with Jamie Gold. I was ready to play the tournament.
Yeah, no. That's definitely not going to be on our list of prizes. We've had some pretty cool prizes over the years. Like the first year we did like a different setup where we played like, so you sit and goes, and you picked your prize you wanted to play for. And one of the prizes was a car. And Brian Ballsblog had Phil Hellmuth play for him in that one. And Phil won. So Brian got his wifey a nice car out of the deal.
You should do a silent auction, one of those dating things where you have guys go up there and then it's like a silent auction goes up and then, or even a regular auction, and then you auction off dates with the people.
It's funny that you say that because there was one charity event. I don't know. I guess I can say this. There's one charity event where Lacey Jones did that, where she was like up for auction to go on a date with or whatever. Uh-huh. So I bid on her to buy her, right?
Bang, bang. Get it, Daniel. Okay.
So, but the thing is, we already dated. Like, we broke up. I was like dating her for a very short period of time. And then after that, like been a year, and I don't know, it was just kind of a way to make amends and stuff like that and stuff. So after that, we like, I bid the 2,200 charity to like go on a date with her again, but we didn't actually do it. I just gave the money to charity. So that's kind of a cool idea. We'll get you out there.
I'm in, man. I'll take my shirt off with this bet we got going on here. I got to be honest. I got a lot of prep bets, and a lot of them focus around diet and fitness. So I'm very much excited for this bet that we have. We got to figure out the stakes though. Have you dated every blonde woman in the poker history, Daniel?
No.
What name?
No.
It seems like, man, you got some, I don't know, Poppy, you might be one of the big low-key sluggers out there, man, in your time. I don't know, man. I can't. We don't want to anger the feminine. I'm sorry. Oh, my God. I'm going to get tweeted by Kate now. I'm sorry, Kate. Can I say that? Okay, Kate says I can say it. Fine. All right. Let me see. We got to, okay. So
microaggressions, bro.
You asked me that question earlier about companies getting, so I think a large majority of companies have contacted me about doing something, but I'm not interested in them. I don't want to do like commentary. Really, I don't want to be like sponsored by poker. Insert whatever name. I don't know. I don't really. I don't know. I don't see the need to do that. And I kind of want to keep myself, obviously, like I'm doing my site and doing my podcast, going to start creating some other unique video content as well that I think people are really, really, really going to like. And yeah, I would like to do something Poker Central. That'd probably be the one, because I feel like it's in line with kind of my ideas and what I want to do. But outside of that, yeah, I don't know. I don't really want to be like with
okay, I have one more question for you. I know I'm not supposed to be asking you questions, but one question for you is like, it's kind of a broad question, but what is your vision for what you're doing now, and what is the end goal?
The goal always for the podcast is to create something for the poker community of actual poker players, that they can just have something that is really good quality that they can watch. That's always been my goal. So that's my goal with the website too, is just put out content that actual poker players, even though they're going down in number because Pokerstars is eliminating them, that's okay. For like the 100 players who are professionals, just create content for that crowd, because that's the kind of stuff I know how to create, because I'm one of those guys. That's why it gives me a unique insight into what I want, like what I would enjoy. And then just like with the podcast, my idea is that if I do that, other people are going to be interested in that, just because it's already at that type of level. So that's always been my approach with this. It's not really about making money. It's not really about having this big goal or dream or whatever. I guess the dream is just to create really, really cool shit. But outside of that, it's not like the typical, most companies, most people are always out to, how can I make the most money possible right now? How can I capitalize on this opportunity I have right now in this short term? And for myself, I'm pretty confident that if I just do well with this and keep really making stuff that people really love, that opportunities will come naturally. And I'm not going to need to have to worry about nickel and diming or $1,000 people. Something will come, and then at that point in time, be good. That's it.
So let me say that I think you're 100% on the right track, because people that chase success for money or for ancillary things rarely get there. It's people that are passionate about something, that really love something, that fall into success as a result. So I'm curious, is like, obviously you enjoy doing it, but like, what else do you get anything from it outside of just personal enjoyment sides? Because you put a lot of work into this. Like, you do a lot of these podcasts, right? Like, is there anything personal that you get out of this? And that's the last question I'll have, I promise.
I mean, I like the questions. Well, I got to talk with Bill Perkins for a 3-hour conversation. He taught me 7 to 8 things about my life that I never knew. It changed my life forever. So that's what I get. I get to talk to people who are extremely passionate about the same thing I'm extremely passionate about. I put my last 9 years into poker. So having ability to have conversations with some of the best and brightest minds in the thing that you're passionate about that's like unmeasurable right there alone. It's just, that's amazing. Like I just love talking to people, especially PLO guy. Talked to Phil Goffin the other day for a couple hours, and he's someone who also plays PLO, which is the thing I've thought about 24 hours a day, 7 days a week for the past 4 years. So I think that alone, that's amazing right there. It's like an unmeasurable type of thing that, yeah.
Well, let me say, I think that, you're getting a lot of really good practice in a community that you're comfortable with and that knows you. And this will prepare you if in the future, if you decide to do something more mainstream. And I think that you can. I think you're qualified enough to do it. Because you got a fun, easygoing, likable personality. And I think you disarm people in that way. And that's a really cool thing. That's really valuable in poker as well, if you ever use that charm that you have. I think there's a lot of value there. As far as, Bill Perkins, he did Choice Center too. I don't know if you knew that.
Talked about it. Oh, yeah. I talked about with you.
Yeah. Yeah, we did Men's Retreat together. One of these things that was like a crazy experience one time. But, part of where that question comes from is similar to that sort of thing. And like thinking about what is your vision, right? So like you're doing this right now. And I think there's value in thinking about like the why. Like, why are you doing it? What are you doing it for? And what is your goal to achieve? Enjoying the journey is the best part of it. But like ultimately having a vision for where you want to see it take you. Because like the possibilities are endless, but first you have to think of them before you want to create them. Like you have to think about, am I going to take over for Jay Leno or like Dave Letterman and have the Joey Ingram show? Is that something that's on the horizon? If you don't think of it first, you're not going to be able to create it. Well,
I guess the idea I've always had is I wanted to focus on poker 100% for a couple of years. And I'm at about 2.5 year mark. And then from there start having, and I've kind of started to do this a little bit, have more guests on that aren't poker, maybe they play poker, they're fans of poker, but they're not strictly poker. And I'm fairly confident I can create a good conversation with people that are not poker players at all. But it's just something that I really just I love talking poker. So when I get to have poker players on, I can relate to exactly what they're thinking pretty often.
Sure.
Whereas
you see the mediums. Sorry to interrupt. The mediums change so much in terms of the way people digest information. Like you look at a guy like Joe Rogan, who's like just a guy who's a comic who is an MMA dude, got a following, and now he does a podcast about a wide variety of things that interest him. Right. So where you start today is less in terms of what community is less important than the quality content you create. And like I said before, I commend you on the hard work you do because you do create a quality product. And that shows through. And I think that you'd be able to translate that very easily into something more mainstream when you choose to do that.
That's a good point. Just kind of focus the content on what it is you're interested in and what you like talking about. When you mentioned Joe Rogan, he talks about exactly the things he's interested in, and he's had a lot of success with that too. So I think that's kind of something I've thought about is the type of people I'd like to have on are people who are also either creative types or they're dreamers or they're they personalities, they do something like that. I think those are the people that I'd like to have conversations with and talk to them about, and then from there see how that goes. Because I think what's unique about me and with poker players is that I've known a lot of people in the poker industry for a long time. I have a lot of respect from other poker players, whether it's for poker or whether it's for doing the podcast. A lot of people have seen the hard work that I put in or the work ethic that I've had over the years. And I feel like as you start to venture outside of your own space, that respect level that people give you is a little bit decreased, and the type of quality of conversation that you have kind of changes because you're sort of trying to, unless you've had a conversation with them before and they really know you, you're always trying to like validate yourself to the person that you're having the conversation with. And I feel like it makes for different level of quality of conversation. Yeah.
Do you listen to Lewis Howe's podcast at all?
Mm-mm. I've heard of it.
It's like 1 million downloads. Okay, Lewis Howe's, he gets about 1 million downloads a month. And what you describe in terms of kind of what you enjoy doing, he is a ex-pro athlete. He's got a podcast called The School of Greatness. And what he does is he interviews people who are inspiring, that talk about the ways in which they make their life work. It's about empowerment. It's really cool. It's very in line with what you're talking about dreaming big, living big. He's done that type of work. He not Choice Center, but like some of that transformational type work that exists all over the world. And he brings that to his podcast where he, like I said, he has guests on his show that make you fired up about, living your dreams or chasing them. So I would recommend you checking it out and just get a few episodes in and see what you think.
I'm gonna check it out. I think I'd like to go that angle, but at the same time, it's like I like having on my little brother. I want to have on like a porn star once in a while. I kind of want to back the truck up and switch it up a little bit. Have these guests that maybe they're not as inspirational to you, but they're just fucking entertaining, or because I know I don't talk to them now, but I know a couple porn stars, and I really want to have one of them on the podcast because I think it'd be entertaining. And I gotta wait, obviously, of course. I don't want to mix business with pleasure here with my bet, but yeah, no, yeah, I will probably.
It doesn't count as watching porn if you have them there with you, right?
I gotta ask Tater about that. I don't think so. I don't think that counts.
That's engaging, not watching. I don't know. That's your deal you got to fix.
Guys, let me take a couple of questions from the chat, and then we're going to wrap things up. Daniel, I appreciate you giving me a couple hours of your time today, my friend. I feel like this kept it up throughout the time, man. I'm usually like there's a little lull periods in there, but I feel like we're able to keep this up pretty strong, man. Very fun, man. I'm glad you guys tuned in. Thank you guys for tuning in. I appreciate all the comments and comments and questions throughout on YouTube and Twitch. Much love to you guys. So upcoming schedule, we kind of got that taken care of. Monte Carlo, are you going? Oh yeah, Tom Dwan. All right, fuck's sakes. Why does everybody want to talk about Tom fucking Dwan still? Everyone said no one knows what he's doing. Do you know what Tom Dwan's doing, Daniel?
Yes.
Oh,
he's playing occasionally obviously overseas in those games, and he's had some family. I don't want to get too detailed, but he's had some issues with some personal issues with his family and stuff like that he's going through, and so yeah, I don't know. Other than that, he's just out there playing. I haven't seen him much. I heard he was in Vegas recently, but I didn't see him.
Same answer. You seen Poker News? You seen Doug Polk's show Poker News on his channel? I know Daniel Negreanu has been a topic in conversation on some of those episodes. Have you seen any of those at all yet, or heard anything about what he's been saying there?
I heard he didn't call me a bad reg, right? So that's good. I heard that he said something about, I didn't watch it, but he said something about promises or something like that with Pokerstars. But other than that, no, I haven't been following up with it.
You think the idea for a show like that's a good idea?
I think any fresh new poker content's a good thing. I think as long as you do, like, I really appreciate what you do because you keep it positive and you look to uplift. And like, I've watched some of the interviews you've done that have been controversial, like, you know, with some guests that, you know, you have on where you have to kind of be neutral, even though you may have some charged opinions one way or the other. And you do a really good job of doing that. I think that's the best approach. I think that's the GTO approach. Like, it's in line with the Jason Somerville approach in terms of, like, Jason Somerville makes everybody around him happier. Not because he's tearing other people down or attacking or, he's just a happy guy that people like are drawn to him because he's got a good positive energy. So something like that show, I think it could be great as long as the focus, I think, is on building each other up rather than rip each other down. Like, I'm sure I don't know if he regrets it or not necessarily. I mean, I've heard his rationalization for the sort of Jason Mercier thing repeated, and it's not a huge deal, really. It's just not necessarily what I would consider the GTO approach, because like Jason Mercier is somebody who like everybody loves, right? And whether you think he's good or bad or something like that, you know that by saying like bad reg, that's gonna like cause some shit. You know, maybe that's one way to create more followers or more likes. I just don't like that approach in terms of the I can't even think of the word, sensitization or something. It's like losing my mind. I don't necessarily like think that's the best approach. I think that you'll build an audience if people like you and like the message that you have, and it doesn't require you bringing others down. You can lift them all up.
Yeah, I mean, I've sort of adopted that approach, and I think that's because that's the kind of person I am now, especially when you make some comments about people and you may see the type of reaction, the way it makes them feel, and you felt that way before. You don't necessarily want to make people feel that way. I think that's certainly something that I have experienced. And now, like, I don't necessarily have these charged opinions like when I have the controversial guest on, for instance. I think how I can stay in the middle is because I'm actually in the middle. I'm pretty much open to both sides. I don't know the full story, so I'm not going to say this is right or this is wrong. And I think it makes it much easier to navigate those type of issues that come up. There hasn't really been too many in poker, luckily, because, we've had, I guess in the past year, we've had the Pokerstars thing, I think, and then we've had the Dr. Jacqueline Moscow situation that happened too. But I think besides that, it seems like we've stayed pretty clear of all those type of controversial moments and those big drama-filled things that might generate a lot of interest for those type of reasons.
Well, you've just tapped into the secret to like Buddhist Zen kind of enlightenment, really, and that's neutrality on all issues. Issues are, events are just events. They're not good, they're not bad, they're just events. It's just about how you perceive them. And so you being open-minded enough to listen to both sides and just hear what they have to say without the jaded opinion is very rare. Like, I'll be honest, I struggle with that myself. One of my, everyone has traits about them that they don't necessarily love, right? Mine would be when I get backed into a corner, arrogance comes out, The other one could be condescension, where I might get condescending. And the other one is judgmental. That's one of the things that I recognize and I find myself in at times, and I can be like, hey, and it's like I have to take a step back. So frankly, when I did the Choice Center course, that was probably one of the biggest things. Is just not that I didn't know I came off as arrogant sometimes or condescending or, judgmental, but it was more realization of even when I don't think I am, sometimes I still am. And also on top of that, understanding how do I shift out of that, right? So I don't want to be that. I don't want to be arrogant. I don't want to be an asshole. I don't want to be judgmental of people. So how do I stop doing that, right? And I didn't really have a good answer. And through the course, I picked up some tools and tricks, and I still screw up. I still do those things. But the difference now is I recognize it much quicker. I'm like, okay, that was you being an asshole. So acknowledge it, either apologize, own up to it, and move on, and then don't dig yourself into a deeper ditch. You know what I'm saying?
So how do you notice that now? So what do you think, like, when it comes to being judgmental, like what is it that you notice first right away? Is it the way a person acts? What do you associate with where you notice yourself catching it in those times still?
So here's the thing. The judgmental aspect of who I am is one of my, let's say weak character flaws, but it's also one of my strengths in poker, right? Because part of what I'm doing when I'm playing poker is I'm judging the shit out of everybody. I'm judging how smart they are. I'm judging where they're at in their life. I'm judging if this guy's going through a divorce, how's he going to play? I'm taking advantage of all the judgments that I make, and we all judge, right? It's part of stereotyping and, figuring out how people think and taking advantage of that in poker. The difficult part is separating that from real life and just being more accepting of people. So the best way to, this is one silly trick, right? But like if there's somebody that I hate or I can't stand, I really fucking hate them, I try to picture them. Seriously, I try to picture them as a 2-year-old child, right? Okay. And I think about like when they were 2, they were just a cute little kid. They were not mean. They were not nasty. They were not arrogant. They were just cute little kids. And then I think, what had to happen in their life from 2 until 30 to make them this way? Like, what do I not know about the struggles this person's had? What do I not know about their uncle who raped them, or their sister who committed suicide, or their mother who beat them and was abusive? Like, there's so much more to the story than just the fact that this guy's being an arrogant prick in this moment. I don't know the heart of this person. So when I'm able to do that and detach from that sort of thing, I can be way more accepting of the behavior that it may not like or may not condone, but at least I can get in touch with the fact that, like, I have no fucking clue what it's like to walk in that person's shoes.
Interesting. So I should look at Phil Hellmuth as a 2-year-old child, and I don't know what happened to him that made him to be a condescending person who looks down on you if he doesn't know who you are at the World Series of Poker and the basketball court by All-American Dave. Okay, I feel you. I feel you on that. I feel on that. He just ignores that person maybe standing right next to him saying hello to him. Okay, I feel you, Daniel. Okay, I'm with it.
Like, you can probably guess. You can probably guess with Phil Hellmuth, and I know some of the truth into where that comes from. It's like, you can probably guess what contributed to making him the way that he is, right? Insecurity, right? Not feeling like he was important, so he comes off as an air of important. Not feeling powerful, feeling small, feeling like dismissed in school, feeling like a nerd. He had pimples all over his face in college. That probably wasn't fun, So he probably dealt with a lot of things in his childhood that created this alter ego that is Phil Hellmuth that we know today, that is can be a dick, at times. But deep down,
but I don't think that's an excuse. Like, I mean, this argument all the time for Phil Hellmuth. Deep down, he's this nice guy. Deep down, but I mean, if he's not a nice guy, if he's a fucking asshole, if he's treating people this way repeatedly over and over again, like okay, at what point in time do you? I think about this a lot. Like, what point in time do you look past this person? A lot of people dealt with issues like that. A lot of people did that. They don't treat you mean. They're not like that. They're not all like that to you. So because he's had to deal with that, but now he's like, he has these moments, a lot of moments. I mean, I don't feel like that should be the excuse that, well, it's fine. He was treated this way. At what point do you just don't want to deal with that person? Really, I think that's the way I look at it. Yeah,
you're 100% right. So there's a big difference between condoning the behavior, right, and condemning the man as a whole, or like, I've been on his ass for longer than anybody. There's a hand that he played, it's got to be 15 years ago, where I grilled him. There's a guy named Roberto Flood. It was in the it was at the Bicycle Club, a $300 Omaha stud 8 tournament. And this guy, Roberto, made a really bad call on 5th Street or whatever. At the end of the hand, Phil just ripped into him. Roberto was a nice man, looked up to us kind of thing. And I looked at Roberto. Roberto looked like he was going to cry. 44-year-old man, got his shit together. So I went up to Phil later, like, wow, how dare you, man? You just shit all over that guy for no reason or whatever. And I've been telling him he has issues with it. I don't condone the behavior. I understand where it comes from, but I'll never condone it. And I'll always speak out against that sort of thing. But all I'm saying is that there's value in understanding where that comes from. You go ahead. I'm just going to grab the cord because I'm like 5% battery.
Shout outs.
2 seconds.
Shout outs. They're coming. Who we got? Jesus 420. What a great name. What's up, puppy? Andra, you weird mother. What's happening, buddy? Thank you for being in the chat today and contributing as usual. Chris Devine, what up, Chris? Ball Bulky, Get Boy, you saying some weird shit too, but it's cool. We like you. Simon, my boy David Huber, what up, David? Puppy. Switch, I saw that music guy in the chat earlier. Says his first podcast, he doesn't play poker. Philip Droney, Roy Van Hort, Chad Holsey, Danny, so sick. MG, Desaz, Rickety, Jay Wong, Peter, what the hell? Peteris Mickelsons. Okay, that's what I got. Puppies. Thanks for tuning in, guys. Much love, much love. So what do you got playing out in Barcelona? You're playing the main event. That's it? Doing anything else? Pokerstars?
Well, I'm supposed to do the commentary. I don't even know if it's over yet, but I'm supposed to do the commentary for the EBT live stream for the 50K. I don't know. It's probably Fedor heads up with somebody.
I think Fedor already won. Fedor won that before we started the podcast.
Okay, good. I guess I don't have to do any commentary tonight. So then I'll probably head down to the charity event for a little bit. But I need to rest up because, like I said, I wasn't feeling good, the other day, and I really want to give this main event a go. So hopefully I'll wake up and feel good enough to go to the gym. I typically skip the first few levels, and that's not GTO, but I'm a little older now, and it actually, I've noticed, does make a difference being fresh for the last 3-4 levels versus playing like the early. The truth is, back in the boom era, I always showed up on time, never missed a hand because there were so many bad players that when I played that 6-4 suited, right, and it came 6-6-10, and they had 2 queens, I got it all. I just get all the chips. But, so basically I would always say that, people would spew early, and then I became that player, right? Because, like, I get, bored in the early levels, and I start to do some, this is a good spot to 3-bet, 4-bet, blah, blah, blah. That's just not my forte. So I skipped the first few levels, show up with like 150 bigs, which I think is plenty, and, just shorten the event for myself. So that's my plan, is play the main event and go all the way. I feel like I'm due for a run here in Barcelona.
State your intent. Remember, I messaged you and I told you that. So during the summer this year, I'm at the series. I'm sluggish. I've been staying all night drinking. I'm getting out of line. I'm hanging out with women I probably shouldn't be hanging out with. And I noticed I'd be going to play poker at these tournaments, and I'm like, man, I just fucking feel I'm all right. Like, fuck, let's go play. And then I'm like, all right, you know what? Daniel always does this thing, state his intent. Everyone's like, all right, what the fuck is he doing? Stating his intent. What a dork, whatever. I'm like, you know what? I'm going to try stating my intent. I did the first time. I felt so damn good. I'm like, man, I'm doing this all the time. So I'm a believer in stating your intent. If you go into the tournament, you say, I'm going to play like fucking shit, I'm going to bust out. You're probably going to play like shit, bust out. But if you go in saying, all right, I'm going to play my best, I'm going to give it my best. And this time, man, now I sound too, whatever, man. Don't knock it till you try it. But I even met some players this year saying, all right, I'm going to play this tournament, I'm going to bust. And I'm like, nah, man, don't talk like that. You go into that, you're going in with a defeatist attitude already. Try to be positive about it. Say you're going to play your best. You're going to put your all into it. You're going to focus. You're going to try and go from there. Start yourself off in a positive place instead of in this negative space that you're just waiting to make a bad play and waiting to bust out the tournament.
Yeah, I definitely want to clarify for some people because they get a little confused by that whole intention thing and what it means and stuff. And there's one book I would recommend. There's a lot of books on this topic. This isn't just something that's Choice Center-ish or whatever. There's a book called Infinite Possibilities, which is it might be out there for a lot of people that sort of covers this kind of thing. But essentially, you wake up in the morning, right? You have intentions for the day. Like, you have some things that you'd like to see happen, right? So part of what having clear intention is putting it down on paper, verbalizing it, say it out loud. Like, I'd like to have a great day. I'd like to get laid tonight. I'd like to go to the club and find me a nice honey, a puppy, right? So
no, wait a second. What? No, we're not trying to find a nice puppy. We're trying to find a mama.
No, not a puppy.
Where at the gayclub? Where are you hanging out at? Where are you picking up people? Come on, what's happening?
So basically,
nothing wrong with both.
So basically, when I'm making my intention clear, what I'm doing is I'm stating my intention is to win the tournament. Duh, right? But I'm not saying things like, yeah, if I bust out tomorrow, I'm just going to go to the beach and, see about this and that, because I don't want to put that out in the universe, right? Because, like, I'm not, that sounds like a kooky term, but, like, I don't want to throw that energy out there, right? Mm-hmm. I want to throw out the energy that's in line with my vision. My vision is win the tournament. So why am I talking about going to the beach tomorrow? Why am I putting that in my head? The other things I could do. My plan is this. I'm going to stick with making sure that every decision I make back from clear intention, which is my intention is win a tournament, then backtrack and go, well, is me making plans on day 2 part of in line with my intention? No. Is me drinking all night after day 1, part of my intention? No. So once I've had it clear what it is I want to accomplish, I work backwards and make sure that everything I say, every decision I make is aligned with the stated intention that I say I want to create.
But how well do you actually find yourself following along with that? Because I'm sure in theory, theoretically, you'd like to do that. But how often do you actually are able to then keep that discipline and then do it?
Yeah, well, through practice, it gets much better. There's another book that's I highly recommend it's a very short read called The 4 Agreements. It's 140 pages. And the 4 agreements are simply like, be impeccable with your word to yourself and others. Number 2 is don't take anything personal. Number 3 is don't make assumptions. And number 4, which is why I brought this up, is the most important one. It's called doing your best. So what it means is you're going to screw up. You're going to make mistakes. Just if you're always consciously doing the best that you can, and then you acknowledge, like, oh, you know what? I screwed that up. but I'm going to continue to do my best going forward. So let's say I'm going to run 5 miles a day, every day, right? And then one day I wake up and my leg hurts and I can't run. Okay, I'm going to do the best that I can with what I'm given, right? And so, yeah, I don't always, I'm not always perfect. But I noticed this, and I'm not saying this is like, provable scientifically, but when I'm very clear with my intention and I'm on the ball and doing the right things, my results typically show through. I remember the one drop when I came second to Dan Coleman. I was never more clear before I started that tournament that I was prepared and ready and planning. I was already talking. I was talking in terms of, thinking about what I'm going to be wearing and what time the pictures are being taken after I win. I didn't win. I came in second place. Because Dan's pretty good.
You look good doing it, by the way. It's a good picture. I used it as the featured image for this podcast. So it's a good picture, man. It looks good.
Yeah. So point being is, I remember really being in line with my intention. There's another book. Oh my God, I'm like giving you a bunch of books, but this book is a really tough read. It's by Dr. Wayne Dwyer. It's called The Power of Intention. And essentially what it talks about is you'll be in your intention, or you'll be closest with it when you're living a life that is in line with that. When you're seeing beauty, when you're expanding, when you're being outward focused, when you're living a life of abundance, when you're seeing things from that perspective, you're more in touch with the universe. This isn't The Secret, which is another book that I've not read, but I've heard a little bit about, where you manifest your reality. It's more simply about just being in tune with, I guess the simple, most easy way to explain it is positivity, if you will.
Mm-hmm. Man, I feel like and the way I think I've been to Choice Center before. I don't know, man, because whenever I talk to anyone who's been at Choice Center, they always say like these ideas, and it's exactly pretty much in line the way I think about things right now. And I don't know where it even came from. So I'm not sure.
Listen, Choice Center didn't reinvent the wheel. It's not like Choice Center is this course that makes up stuff. They use lots of like books like that have been written years ago, like Daniel Goleman, who wrote Emotional Intelligence. It's based on theories and like studies that have been done over years, and they created exercises to kind of evoke emotion from you, to have a deeper look, so you can have like a mirror for yourself, to like have a deeper introspective look at like why you believe the certain things that you do about yourself, what stops you from living the dream life that you say that you want. And it's like it's intensive because it's different than reading a book. You read a book, you're just reading a book, and that's not a bad thing. That's great. You can learn a lot from it. But there's nothing like an experiential learning experience, because it sticks with you. And studies show that if you experience something, you remember it longer. And the way in which the course is set up, man, you go through a lot in a short period of time, where you're like, really taking a deep look at your life, where it's at, where you want it to be, why it's not there, and can you get there, and what would you have to change in order for you to get there. So I thought it was really powerful for me.
Listen, I know, guys, I'm not going to keep the Choice Center minimal. I know we talked about it last time. I know you guys, people are freaked out about Choice Center stuff. Sorry, I'm not gonna say anything else. So I'm gonna take one or two more questions. I'm gonna wrap up. So podcast plans. So your podcast plans. By the way, I like where you're. I've said this. I like where you're. I wrote this. I like that you're going for people who are kind of like at the top of these companies, that are more business guys you've probably known for a long time. I have thought about having those guys on the podcast, but I don't necessarily know them like on a personal level. I don't really know what they've done. I don't feel like I would have the best conversation with them at this point in time in my career right now. I feel like in a couple of years, that'd be something that I'll be able to have more in common with them, and I could talk with them about. So I'm glad that you're going for those guys, because I feel like you'll be able to really get some good information out of those type of people. And I think you might, like, there are not many people that really could be able to do that. So I'm pretty happy that you're going to head and do that.
Well, no, that's exactly what I said earlier. Is like, I wasn't looking to take over a space, I was looking at something that I could do that I was uniquely qualified for. And because I have the ear of those people, and I find it interesting anyway. Like, I find the business side of poker, and I have for most of my life, I find it really interesting, like how it all works and stuff, especially when I hear people talk about it and they have no idea. And they're like, oh, I'm like, you guys don't have a clue how this really works. So I thought it would be really educational for people and really interesting. And, I think the one with Brian is fun, especially for, people who don't remember what the boom was like or didn't experience it. But I really want to open up some eyes to it. And I agree with you in the sense that it helps to know the people, know their history, know what they're about, in order to, be effective in that kind of a podcast.
Yeah, I think so. I'm saying definitely, if you haven't listened to the first one, check it out, because like that, I don't even want to say, I don't want to admit this. It may make people mad then if I say this. All right, fine. So normally when I go to the gym, I like never listen to poker podcasts. I just listen to non-poker podcasts. But this one, I was like, all right, I like really excited. I saw the description, and now I think these descriptions do sell. Because I saw the description, I'm like, all right, I got to listen to this. This sounds fucking awesome. Because these are just like the topics I've always wondered about. These full tilt heydays, how it all happened. There's so much money involved. As you mentioned, I do a podcast now. I always think about this. What would it have been like a couple years ago? And man, I was just like laughing. I'm like, man, I was like, man, I wish there were more of these. Now I said people like my podcast, man. I'm like, man, I love this. Oh, this is dope. I can't even say it. Because it's like, yeah, I love poker. I'd like to listen to, I like it, whatever. I don't want to spam, it's okay. It's all right. Stop there. But yeah, I'm excited. Who else you got lined up? Who else you thinking about getting? You got Alex Dreyfus on. I've talked with him a couple times. He certainly is pumps me up when I have him on. Who else are you thinking about getting on that we can look forward to?
Several. Well, I'm gonna look to talk to Jason Somerville about Twitch specifically and how that works. The one that I'm really excited about, I think a lot of people are gonna really get a lot out of, is I want to talk to Maury Escandati.
Oh, I want him on for a while too. I talked to him once, but I never really got in touch with him again. But I think that'd be a great one. Yeah.
I think a lot of people will really be interested in the sort of in the chronological order of how things happen with high stakes poker and the like, and what he's doing now with the World Series and things like that. Down the road, maybe people like Jack Effel, maybe Ty Stewart from the World Series of Poker. And I have a list. I don't remember some of the other names in there.
Isai Scheinberg.
That would be an interesting one. I don't know that publicly he would be able to really open up about a lot of things. I think, I'm not sure what the contract, I could ask, but he's not somebody that's at the top of my list right now.
I'm dedicated. At one point in time, I'm going to go to the Isle of Man. I have heard he wanders around town. I'm going to find him and I'm going to record something with him. I don't know what. I just got to give him a hug. I got to jump. I got to take him to strip club.
That's one of the most surprising things is that he still lives there. I don't know if people know this, but we used to call him Shy, not Eastside. We called him Shy. I played with him in Toronto in private clubs when I was 17 years old. I had a video of me playing with Shy where I came third in a tournament. He came fifth. I busted him with kings against threes or whatever. And I've known him for a long, long time. Before, he was just a 10-20 grinder and he worked at IBM or something. He was like a software guy. And he called me up one time. He's like, Daniel, he wanted me to be a consultant with Pokerstars. Mm-hmm. And was like, I'll give you 3%. I was like, nah. I'll go with this. I might do a deal with these people. They seem good. UB. Yeah, right. I dodged that bullet. I never signed a deal with UB. But I turned down Esai's offer of 3%. And then later when I finally did sign with Pokerstars, he reminded me, he goes, you remember when I called you before about the 3%? I'm like, yeah, I remember. Yeah. So, not all the decisions I've made have, been the right ones in terms of poker business.
Yeah. I don't want to, people in the chat are mentioning names. Robbie said Phil Ivey. Obviously, Phil Ivey would be.
He's on my list.
Yeah.
He's 100%.
Like those guys the big game guys who have never really done anything. I want to have Doyle on the pod, but I don't know. We tried blasting him on Twitter a little bit, but we didn't. I don't know. He's dealing with robberies or something still, so I don't know. We didn't get.
My plan actually, as of now, is and this is loose, but Alex Dreyfus, and then I'll probably Phil Ivey next, because I'm going to do mostly the types of people that I talked about, but I'm also going to talk to some people that are maybe out of reach for a lot of people, the Phil Ivies who just won't do this kind of stuff unless I make him. So I'm going to make him.
Well, I'm going to open him up. Well, that's why I get certain guests on that don't do anything else too, is because when you know the people and you've known them for years, you play, that's most people hey, want to come on here, especially if you're not a conventional media type of person who you're just doing this because it's something you enjoy doing. People are much more inclined to want to join you, especially if they have this personal relationship with you. They're going to say, yeah. They trust you. They trust that it's not going to be something out of line. They're not going to look a certain type of way. So I feel like it's a big advantage.
And then there's another guy. I love the guys that can tell old school stories. So, Mike Sexton's always a good guest for that. He really Nolan Dalla is another one who I've actually had on my list. And, I actually talked to him about it already. I saw him and I said, so I'd like to have you on a podcast in the future. And, just because I don't want to get involved in the drama of what's going on, all that. It's just going to be about the World Series of Poker. It's just going to be about the history. It's not going to be about.
You can't do that though. You can't See, that's the thing I like. You can't avoid those subjects like that. I feel like,
it's not going to be about that.
And that's a pretty big topic, though. It's like me having you on, not talking about Pokerstars. Like, that's kind of what it is.
Yeah, but my podcast it's not going to be like investigative journalism where I'm trying to like.
Investigative journalism, but it's the big thing. Because come on, you can't not talk about that. No, you got to talk about
listen,
that.
That's an issue that it just doesn't seem like there's a lot of value in him blasting on a podcast or getting personal. Like, and again, it's very difficult for me, as I know that you're, being neutral on it. Like, I've known Nolan a very long time. I don't know her. I saw her allegations and I read them, and what I tweeted when it first happened is I said I've known Nolan 20 years. I've never personally seen anything like this, and I realized that me saying that can come off as though, well, he's trying to say she's lying or whatever. I don't know what happened.
100%. That's exactly what a lot of people thought. 100%. Yeah. They think, oh,
I don't know what happened, but like part of it is like this. Like I've known him a long time, so like all I'm saying is like there's no reason for me to believe that based on his behavior that I've seen 20. Like there's nothing that led me to believe that he would do something like that. I'm not saying it's impossible. Like I don't know, but it would surprise me if he did. And like I said, I don't know her, so. It's a situation like, let's say you knew somebody, right? You actually know somebody. Mm-hmm. And then something like this happens, and someone that you've never met or don't know anything about makes the claim, but the person that you do know says this didn't happen. Your tendency is typically going to be like to believe the person that you do know a little bit more than the person you don't. That's just human nature. That's not like being outwardly judgmental. That's not like victim blaming or anything like that. That's just saying like, listen, if my brother, Mike, right, was accused of something that, illegal, and he told me, bro, I didn't do it. Well, I'm probably going to believe my bro in that case because he's my bro, but I'm not going to rule out the possibility that, he's lying.
Right. Yeah, I think that's only natural thing, especially if you have a friend, I mean, yeah, I think it's just that's just sort of how things work, especially if you've known them, they're friends with you, you've helped them out, or they've helped you out over time, or if you have a personal relationship where you've seen that person represent themselves to be a certain type of person for an extended period of time. Yeah, it's definitely a natural thing. I'm sure in that situation, you've known him for a while. You have a voice. Well, you want to use that voice to speak out in this type of way that you believe. Obviously, the other side of things, they're gonna, equal right. I mean, I don't want to get into it. I did actually enjoy the podcast. By the way, it was fun. It was different, and I mean, yeah, I like Jack, and I talk with Nolan a little bit as well. So, I like him. It's like an interesting thing to navigate, because it's like I don't really want to get on one side or the other, but I just want the story to be told. A lot of people have interest in it. I feel like it's an important subject. And
yeah, no, I think that's really responsible. Like obviously, like everybody else, I have really strong opinions about a lot of what was released and all that stuff, but I don't think it's appropriate for me to share them because I don't know. I don't know what happened. I wasn't there, but I definitely have strong opinions about things that I've seen on both sides that I would, it maybe with friends, privately talk about, but just wouldn't put on blast on social media or anything like that, because that's when you start to either victim blame or like, accuse somebody without knowing the full story. The only people that really ultimately know exactly how things went down are the two of them.
Yeah, I got to record something on my phone. I forgot about this. I'm doing this new series called Life of Joey where I record my entire day because I'm trying to hold myself accountable to put in these very productive 14, 16, 18-hour days of my diet, my gym, learning a lot of stuff, poker mixed in, my website, the GTO club, everything. So I want to record this behind the scenes. Can you give him a shout out, Daniel, and say what's up to the people watching that are watching this back on YouTube, but not the podcast?
What's up to the people watching this back on YouTube? Kid MCD bringing it to you live from Barcelona. Casaona. I don't know. I did that same one before, and it sounded better the first time. But yeah.
You're I don't know about this rap career of yours, Puppy. I'm not sure if if it's gonna be able to work.
I used to chat reggae when I was young, because I can speak patois. So because I grew up with a bunch of Jamaican people, so I can actually speak patois, and they used to teach me how to like chat and make up my own lyrics and different kind of thing them. Because when I was like a youth, we used to sing all different kind of songs them, but them not cool for rap and doing different kind of thing and these days, see? Because white people when we do this, them not understand what I say, but me speak pure patois, all the way from when I was a little youth, see?
What the fuck? Maybe you get one of those guys on the podcast too while you're at it, man. I don't know.
Oh yeah.
That could be pretty fun. For sure. I got to time some of these chats out. All right. We got anything else we need to talk about, Daniel? I feel like
you can ask about those guys. You can ask Christian Harder because he met them one night in Toronto. about those guys I grew up with.
Everybody, man. How does Charter meet every
Ask
guy?
him. You ask him when you see him. Ask him what those guys were like. My boys that I grew up with.
You ever seen a guy get a massage more than Charter at the World Series of Poker? Who else? Who's the guys that get the most massages during the series? I feel like Charter has always had like a massage therapist on his shoulders this year.
I know Bobby Baldwin gets 2. Like because they have to go on break.
Well, listen, I've seen I seen that little Aria circle ball. I'm not sure what he's getting over in that corner, but he's getting something, man. That's the guy. That's the guy you need to hang out with, Daniel. He felt like I don't know. He's on the young girl grind, man. He gets it, man. Bobby Baldwin's that dude's the man. Got the bodyguard over there in the corner. No, can't fuck him, man. He's drinking his whiskey with Ben Lamb and Phil Hellmuth right now. You got to stay back here. You got to stay back. So, who do you think are the guys coming up in poker right now? The next potential is, you mentioned tiers on the podcast. I actually like how you put that, tiers of player. Who do you feel like you have any potential guys who can jump up to that tier 2 or that tier 1 category that might be coming up here in the poker world? Or do you feel like that tier 1 is unattainable at this point in time because of the lack of coverage in America?
So you say you're asking in terms of popularity and notoriety, or are you talking about skill?
Correct. Popularity and notoriety. Correct.
Well, it's difficult to break into if all they're doing is winning, right? Because in the old days, that's all that mattered. To get a patch deal, really all that mattered is you're on TV a lot. That's valuable to us. Here's money. Here's a patch deal. And once you have that, then the sites have incentive to promote you, to help elevate your brand as a result. So, if you were with Pokerstars back in those days, for example, they're going to make a commercial about you, and you're going to star in it, and then you're going to elevate your brand through that. With that not necessarily being really like a marketing strategy for any sites right now, that opportunity doesn't really exist the same way that it did for players. So really the only way to get to that tier in terms of notoriety is to do things like you're doing, and to do what Jason Somerville is doing in building an audience. And, Jason's doing the Run It Up thing, Run It Up Reno. He's got, he's giving away a lot of free content, Twitch streaming and things like that. So that's the best way now, I think, to just, being active on social media, being active with creating content. Because in the old days, like there was people creating the content for you and putting you in it. And today that's not so much the case. The world has changed. And if you want to be, you want to get from tier 3 to tier 2 to tier 1, the best way to do it is to create the content yourself, or, do podcasts, be engaging, and expand your reach that way.
Yeah. I don't really know anyone can, I just think it's almost impossible to go from that up to that tier 1, like a level where you're at, or someone like Phil Hellmuth's at, or I feel like
it's also, and this people may not like this, and this is my opinion, but part of what like the younger online player looks like is somebody who played online poker, typically socially not as comfortable. They're more introverted. They're online players, and that doesn't necessarily lend itself well to being engaging and fun, life of the party kind of people like yourself. So the best players that follow that sort of mold don't necessarily translate to the people that people just like can't wait to watch. The poker diehards love it. Like, they just absolutely love seeing the best players play. And that's maybe where the poker's headed, like in terms of an audience, in terms of thinking like forwardly, that the poker audience is the poker audience. And maybe we got to stop worrying about creating content like that for the mainstream and just focus on the people that are going to be diehards going forward. I don't know if that's true. That's one possibility.
Yeah, it seems like that no one takes that approach to anything. No one's taken that approach with things, but I feel like that's the approach I've taken. But I feel like most, like they feel like the only way, because a lot of people are also making money. So when you think about it, there's more recreational players, potential poker players, than there are actual poker players who play a lot of poker as their main thing. But it's just so big, it makes sense to go after this group of people to try to make money from this group of people, because the group of people is bigger. So I can understand the direction that a lot of companies go for and go after with that sort of strategy. But I feel like it could, there's got to be another out. You look at like a high stakes poker, it appeals to both type of things, and it's such a simple concept show. I find it hard to believe there can't be something like that replicated somehow. And I think,
well, and that's a danger that I think ESPN went down the wrong path, and I think some other sort of shows started to really trend down the wrong path of being too sophisticated, too sports-like, too much GTO talk, too much UTG+1 cutoff button, and less about the stories. I think the World Series, but not to say that this is the only reason, but part of the reason the mainstream liked it is because they didn't have to know the poker. They were curious to see if that guy is going to punch the other guy who says he didn't ante. They want to see, oh, this guy's getting kicked out. Well, look at this Phil Hungate guy. He's throwing things and he's going cuckoo and he's going crazy. And, like people were interested in that sort of aspect, the characters, what they're about. Like when Lee Markoff was on there, oh, he's the bull rider guy. And then Lee Watkinson.
Hoyt Corkins with that fucking sick hat, all in all the time. All in Hoyt Corkins. That guy was awesome.
They identified them with something.
I love that guy.
And that was part of, right. And part of the job to do that is the production team. And I think the EPT is really doing their best to sort of recapture that with their broadcasts. And now they have both. With EPT, you have the live stream, which the diehards absolutely love. And actually it gets a wide range of audience, big audience, huge audience. You'd be shocked. And then on top of that, you have the edited shows where you can create the storylines and you can sort of, appeal more to the mainstream. So it's a good GTO strategy.
I could do that, Daniel. Me personally, what do you think I could do from that perspective? That you think that's the question. Yeah.
So for you to get more mainstream, one of the ways.
What do you think I can do to fit more of that story in there for people? Because I think that's like or even more mainstream. Either one. I'm curious what you think.
Okay. So there's essentially two questions in that. The first one is essentially a strategy that PokerStars is using right now a little bit with guys like Neymar and Ronaldo, which is piggybacking off of those followers to hopefully bring them into a new environment. So for you, interviewing mainstream. And then making your show one that people just like to listen to, and then you have poker as well. So maybe a second channel, like a lot of people have their podcast that's the poker podcast, and then they have something else that's just their regular podcast. So you could do both and then have crossover. You could tell the people that you have the mainstream podcast for about poker. The other part of your question was how to create story. I think you do a really good job of what you do in terms of keeping it fun and fresh. I would say that for a mainstream audience, you'd want to put it into snippets that are more digestible time-wise. Like
that's the idea. Yeah, I agree.
Yeah. So typically the way that information is digested today, and I know people that have looked at this, and typically people fade after 3 minutes of a video. The short attention span these days. Like people don't spend more than 3. After 3 minutes, they're on to something new, unless they're engaged or they're really, really interested. So ideally to snap into that market somehow, 3-minute videos would probably be ideal for, maybe where you take little clips of some of the more outrageous things that happen on your podcast over the 3 hours, package them together, put them together, and as standalones on their own.
That's kind of been the thing I've always really haven't wanted to do for all, because I was just all poker. Like at my YouTube channel, I really wasn't trying to GTO-ify it from that regard, but that's something now that I start with the website, that's basically my next plan, especially with a podcast like this. There's so many of these moments, these little sound bites. And I kind of, if you look at what late night TV does, they have all these clips online. Like all the shows have these 3, 4, 5 minute things. Even the interviews, if you notice, they don't put them, the full interviews, they'll put it into 3-minute stuff like Jimmy Kimmel and Jimmy Fallon. And I always wonder why they did that. But when I started thinking about it more, it makes a lot more sense that they keep it up in those 4, because you kind of click one, it's easy to digest. You click another, it's easy to digest. You click another, it's easy to digest. And I think that's probably is the big thing, especially if there's so much content available to then put into that format. It's just a challenge of actually doing it. That's the biggest challenge, just doing it.
It's really just, it's science, man. It's science. It's like we live in an age, millennial age, where, there's so much competition for your attention online that, the idea of a 2-hour broadcast is like, wait a minute, I could watch 20 videos instead of one and get a whole bunch of different tastes so that satisfy my urge and my satisfaction rather than just one. And I love the medium. I love podcasts. I think it's great, especially for people that are you're in the gym, you're doing different things. You can digest them. But in order to make a mark that's more like wider reach and mainstream, definitely I think shorter videos is the GTO strategy.
Yeah, I mean, I'm always amazed that I get this many people that watch these things. They're hours long. Like the Phil Galfond one's 3 hours long. It's 20,000 views in like less than a week. I get shocked. I'm like, man, I can't believe, like, it just gets crazy, man. I mean,
Well, see, you're able to do that. You're able to do that now because you've cultivated a loyal audience that knows there's going to be good stuff in it, right? If I didn't know who you were and I'm just a mainstream guy and I'm like, what the fuck? This guy's going to talk to Phil Galfond, some poker player, for 3 hours? Why would I want to listen to that? That just seems obnoxious, right? But because you have a following and people know, well, this is a good podcast. It's well recommended by everyone who's watched it, or not, podcast or YouTube show that you do. But to get in to grab new players or new viewers, that might just be daunting for them. Something like a 2 to 3.
I think about that too, even for Joe Rogan. So he's somewhat podcast I want to listen to, but I look at they're 3 hours, and even me, like, I'm like, fuck. Do I really want to start listening to this? Like, man, so I think the other day I was looking at on YouTube. I'm looking for a new podcast to have. My favorite one's Planet Money, because it's like, you ever listen to Planet Money, Daniel? It's business stuff. They're 15 to 20 minutes. They're fucking, like, they're so well produced. Their stories are good. It's great information. It's one of the top podcasts on iTunes, but it's 15 to 20 minutes. That's my favorite one. So I'm like, all right, I'm looking at Joe Rogan's podcast. I'm just like hesitant to jump in. My favorite ones are 15 to 20 minutes. It's like, what the fuck am I? It's like, what am I? I'm kind of going against my theory of making it for myself. I'm kind of going against it in a way, but at the same time, if it's about poker, I probably would listen. Like if you do a 3 hour podcast with fucking Phil Ivey, I'm gonna listen to the podcast. So maybe it's just, I'm just not that interested in the guest. So, but yeah, I think that you're definitely right. Shorter clips.
Well, I don't see any reason why you can't do both, right?
Yeah.
Doing these live hangouts seems like a really cool idea because people get to experience it. You give them the shout outs. They feel like they're part of it. And then in addition to that, to bring in new, viewers, or like to broaden your base, you give them some little snippets of little things that give people a taste of like, wow, this is pretty cool. And then they may tune in for the longer ones as well.
Definitely agree. I'm going to think about need a story arc to something. I wrote this down, something you said earlier. Need a story arc to something. That's going to be a breaking point for something that I create in the future that's poker related. Need a story arc. The idea was born during this podcast right there. I wrote it down. I'm very excited. So, man, all right, Daniel, I've been keeping you for a while, Pop. We were supposed to wrap this up 45 minutes ago, but we kept on here going, man. So, people want to follow you. They can follow you on Twitter. Are you going to be tweeting about politics nonstop next 2 months, buddy? Or is this?
So this is the thing. Like, I don't know if people noticed, but during the conventions, I was tweeting a lot about politics. But if you look at my tweets over the last 3 weeks, there's none.
True. I didn't mute you. I had to mute everybody else. I couldn't fucking take it anymore.
I haven't. I tweeted something really funny. Like if I see something funny or stupid, I'll tweet like one a day. But in terms of like my outright all-in attack on Trump, I'm kind of like, not that I don't feel any differently at this point, but I feel like it's the message is out. I think I hammered it pretty hard, and it feels like the election seems relatively safe at this point. But no, I was certainly nervous. Like I'd be fearful of a Trump presidency. I wanted to at least make my voice heard, and I really didn't care. And I'm very aware that doing that is divisive, and you're going to lose followers, and a lot of my followers are going to be Trump supporters. But that was less valuable to me than speaking my mind. But it's not something I'm not going to get involved in the drama forever. It was just part of the conventions. It seemed like it was relevant at the time. It was what was going on. And now that that's over, I'm not focused on that. I'm still paying attention privately, but not on Twitter.
Yeah. I had to mute. I was like, I can't mute Daniel, man. He says some other interesting things too. I like reading the backlash you get when you tweet. I like clicking on and reading the comments. It's fucking hilarious.
You get some.
I can't imagine. I try to stay. I mean, I don't have those strong opinions on things like that. But if I did, I don't think I'd say them.
You will find as you continue to do this in your career or whatever you choose to do, there will be a time where the haters come out of the woodworks. And that's just part of like being, in the public eye, that, everything you say, everything you do is held against you. People hold you like, obviously, like what we started the whole podcast with, where's the fucking promotions? And I get it. I understand it. I made the comments and I said, if they happen, I'd be cool, but it was slightly, manipulated in terms of what I said, but that's part of being responsible for what you say. So I'm aware that, me saying that puts some expectation out there and people are disappointed. And I got to own that.
No, I agree. I think someone in the 2+2 earlier said something about I can't believe Daniel would show his face on the podcast when the online community dislikes him. I'm like, listen, I bet he's probably thought about the online community less than like a handful of minutes. I mean, really, like, think about these guys that are making this comment. I'm like, I got to imagine that it's not shaking him up too much, man. Like, I just don't think.
Well, that's not. I do think about it. I do think about what they have to say and stuff like that. I'm actually really, I guess, intrigued to some degree, like how the internet creates kind of like a cesspool of negativity in forums, especially where it's like there's sort of a mob mentality where everyone kind of like gets on board with hating something. Like, it's just a cool thing to do. Like, let's hate on this. Oh yeah, I'm not a fanboy, but like as if that would be like a really nerdy thing to be or something like that. Not that I'm looking for people to be fanboys of mine, but I notice when people sometimes would start with that. Like, I'm no DNegs fanboy by any stretch. Like, to let you know, like, I'm not a nerd, right? I'm still cool. I hate him just as much as you do. But if they're ever going to defend me or something along those lines. So I find it intriguing, disheartening, if you will, because I feel like so much energy spent on all that negativity has to weigh on people, and it has to like internally hurt. Understanding also why the online poker community would be upset with me is important to me. Like, it matters. Like, what am I doing that is upsetting them? Like, what am I not doing that they'd like me to be doing? Like, what do they perceive me to be not doing? Like, do they really think that I'm a corporate shill who's just saying whatever I have to say and not on their side? Like, that would matter to me. And I do realize that some people are going to have that opinion, and there's only so much I can do to shift it, change it, address it. But I think it's important. I don't ignore it. I don't just go, fuck them.
I don't know. Earlier, your girl said you said that. Remember?
That was a joke.
Remember? I don't know. I didn't think it was a joke, man. Poker Fuse just ran an article. My boy Michael Gentile just wrote about that too. I didn't actually do that. I'm kidding. But Poker, if you know that Five's going to have something about that.
Start a thread. Negreanu and his girl both shit on players, and just play that one clip only, and that's your little sound bit.
Don't give them ideas, buddy. They're gonna run with that, man. Guys, okay. If you want to find Daniel on Twitter, it's at @RealKidPoker. You got Instagram, Daniel?
Yeah, I think DNegs Poker.
All right, you don't use it, so you don't find. Do you have Snapchat?
I tried getting into that. I don't even get it, man. I'm just Twitter dude.
I gotta get you. I'll
Real
put
Kid Poker.
It's on the Snapchat.
Okay.
You have to talk to Snap. I'm talking to Snapchat.
Talking to Snapchat, you can talk into it too. Like, what's up, Snapchat?
I forgot. I'm bad at this stuff. I forget I'm supposed to like Snapchat this stuff. I'm like literally the worst. I'm like terrible at this stuff, man. I don't like clicking buttons. I don't even know I have no rhyme or reason strategy for what I do. But you want to find Daniel's podcast, check out fullcontactpoker.com, or also it's on iTunes. Search for your name, which probably might not spell right, or it's under something different, right? Is that what you
weird? I think they got to fix it. Right now, I think it's FCP Poker or Poker FCP, one of those things. It's really screwed up. I'm going to make sure that they fix that today.
All right, search Poker FCP.
Full Contact Poker.
Check it out. It's a great episode. And what else did I say? Oh, yeah, check out my website, onepokerlife.com. I wrote about the podcast a little bit for Daniels. I'm going to write something. This is an idea I've literally had for the last 3.5 years. I just didn't want to start it. And it's going to be on your documentary on Netflix because a lot of people like it. So I'm going to do something on it that no one else in poker has chosen this style of writing on this. You'll see the Robbie's going to be tilted that he didn't think about this, but it's my favorite writing style for an event.
Yeah, be careful with this style thing because Nolan Dalla tried style one time and he got in real big shit about one article he wrote.
Yeah,
you know what I'm talking about?
I'm not going to be talking about bartenders and shit. Come on, kid. I'm not getting out of line with this. Come on. I mean, I guess I could get out of line. I don't know. But yeah, guys, I appreciate you tuning in. We got a lot of watchers here. Much love to y'all. If you want to find it on iTunes, search Poker Life. You can find it on my YouTube channel. It'll be up there as well. Daniel, it was fun. Look forward to doing it again sometime soon, puppy.
You got it, bud.
Much love, kid. I'll see you, man. Have fun with the mamacita.
Sounds good.
See you, buddy.
See you later.
Peace.